All right, guys, welcome back to the Transparency. Idaho4 and Nolan Wells in this segment. Cy, Steve, and Olivia, they all sat down, had a conversation. Howard Blum sat down with Megyn Kelly, had a conversation. Wow, wow, wow. And then Nolan Wells, we're going to bring you some information. Is his toxicology going to report that he had cocaine in his system? Okay. Again, good morning, everybody. At some point in this broadcast, if you're watching, you're going to have an opinion. Thumbs it up, thumbs it down. I will never tell you how to think. I'm just going to supply you with the material. Now, where to start? We're going to start with News Nation's new Jesse Weber. Remember, News Nation bought, or Law and Crime bought News Nation. Ashley Banfield out in with the new. So Ashley Banfield did not get this interview. I'm waiting to see if she's accepting my invitation, though, to speak on the case. I told her that we will break the algorithm. We will break the internet. And so I'm hoping and hopeful that we can work something out to have a live broadcast together. With that said, Steve Gonsalves, Olivia, Cy. Let's see it. This is unprecedented.
Take it all back. I'm back with Cy Wright, who at one point in time was a potential expert witness for the defense team should it have gone to trial, a geolocation expert, the chief innovation officer at Ver News. He studied Kohberger's AT&T records. We just talked about the accuracy of them, what the prosecution might have been missing. But now we have something special. Never happened before. I've never done it. I am joined by the father of victim Kaylee Gonsalves, Steve, who I had on the program last night, and Kaylee's sister, Olivia, who have questions for Cy. It's great to see you both. Thank you both for taking the time. I'm really just going to hand it off to you, Steve. I understand, respect Cy for standing by his work, but you say not everybody's doing that. I turn it to you for the question that you might have for Cy.
Yeah, well, Cy came out and stood by.
Okay, I tried to get this to happen on my panel. Shit you not. I said, I want to have you, Steve, and Cy on my panel together. That's the way that I would do this. And, what questions did you have that the state never gave you? Things like that. And also, is it something that Cy in the future could help with the Kaylee, the murder has a name? Is that something that, he could be a part of down the road? Because Cy is geolocation, one of the best, right?
His work, stood by what his professional opinion was. He wasn't paid. There's a lot of people who were paid and then turned that into some kind of for-profit, enterprise. And I just wanted to respect somebody who stood by their work, because I need more of that. I think a lot of courtrooms need more people to stand by what their expert testimony is.
Okay, so I went ahead and pulled out Cy's expert testimony that he was going to be giving Ann Taylor. Okay, his scope. His testimony was very specific. Interpretation of the drive test data and mapping supplied by the state. Number 2, analysis of call detail records. Number 3, geolocation data review and analysis. And number 4 is opinions regarding the FBI draft cast report and final cast report. That's what his scope of testimony was going to be. He was not the pattern of life expert for this case. The pattern of life experts for this case, for Brian Kohberger, were Carol Pendon and her husband, Kevin Pendon. Cy was not the pattern of life expert in this case for Brian Kohberger. The things that I saw being talked about in this interview, you cannot find in Cy's report. Some of the stuff. And it's very interesting.
And these gag orders are kind of cloaking devices to keep people from actually being responsible for their so-called expert witness testimony. So there's not a lot of opportunities I get to speak to an expert, to somebody who's actually seen the data that is related to my daughter's death. And I don't take that lightly. And Cy has daughters as well as I do. And I think his heart's in the right place. And I wanted to reach out and find out, like, these questions that I have that even the defense and the prosecutor, nobody wants to help me with. So if he's willing to, like, tell me, hey.
I wrote Steve and I said, you should talk to Cy if you can, once this was all over and there was like this, plea deal. I said, Cy has daughters just like you. I said, I think you and Cy are way more alike than you could possibly imagine. And because it was for the WSU lawsuit, also from like a father to father type thing. But me saying this, I'm also not in an NDA. I'm also not an expert in my ethical duties and bounds and what I can and can't do, what I should and shouldn't do.
How can you have cell tower dumps, the whole tower dump, and then his phone turns on at 4:48? How is that not? How do we not have timing records in there? How do we not have that? That's my main question for him.
Cy?
Yeah, and I think there's a couple things to look at with that question. Number one, when his phone turns back on, there's no doubt the route that he took. There is no doubt the connections to the towers. I've been very concerned from the get-go of why we're not seeing that data. The map that's on the screen right now is a perfect example. That was a map that was used in all of the search warrants. Essentially, you will find that map right there repeating throughout every search warrant. It's wrong.
It's wrong. That map is wrong. Period. That map is wrong. We've known this. We've known that map is wrong. That map is wrong.
And it's wrong in a number of disturbing ways. And when you actually take the data that's out there and you map it, I can tell you, Steve, there's no doubt where that device is when it turns back on. And it's not Thorny Creek Road. It's south of there. It's still on 95. It's still southbound. It does eventually pull off and it travels east and then west and then kind of back up to the north to come back into WSU. But we're talking 25-meter radius GPS pings. And they perfectly align with the roadway. When you measure the distances between them, the speeds are 100% appropriate. You can see the vehicle come to like a three-way intersection and it turns left. And the next one, it turns right. It is turn by turn. There's absolutely no doubt. I've been saying from day one, they need to map all the data. They need to go get the data. They need to map the data. And I reserve the right to change my opinion until all of that data is put forth.
That's what he said in May. Okay? In May of 2024. In his testimony. Prior to May of 2024, at the end of 2023, before they tore down the house, Cy was out there and he took the devices that you take out there and he was doing drive tests, okay, back then, before he ever testified. And when he testified in May, he said that they didn't map all the data. We're missing some stuff. This can't be possibly right. They were also talking about the timing advanced. And the big, pony here, the show was we didn't get the timing advance for Brian Kohberger. Okay. Well, this has actually nothing to do with the main part about it, which was everything before the phone shut off, which allowed you to get probable cause, in this case, to continue on by saying that a white Elantra, or what appears to be a white Elantra, is moving in concert with a phone that's traveling on a path to go into Moscow to kill people. That material, so see how they start here? He's like, I want to talk about 448. There's no talks about let's talk about 242 to 254. Now, maybe there were, and this is just the clip they're showing from this 13 minutes. But I've claimed that the reason that you'd want to suppress this information, and the reason it should have been suppressed, and it would have been suppressed, is because anything that came from the phone records are going to be tossed. So the jury would never hear that his phone came on at 448 because you couldn't use it. Because to me, that's the most damning of the phone. Because what's it doing over there? So the jury would never hear that. To even be allowed to, create this, what do I want to say? The circumstances, to even be able to put it in the jury's mind about his phone being in a different location than where he normally is when it's at 3:30 in the morning, or 4:30 in the morning, or 2. But I thought Cyree said that he's a sporadic driver and he drives all over, and he does shut off his phone. He'll then turn it back on, and he's all over the areas. So then it's like he could be doing that. You know what I mean? But here they start the conversation at 4:48.
I think it tells a story. And I don't know how an expert prompts both the investigative side and the defense side of, hey, these are bottom line basic steps that need to be taken. If that was done, what would be found is the very next day, he mirrors that exact same route. He starts off in Pullman, he comes into Moscow, he drives down 95, he pulls onto the dirt road. He's in the exact same area that he drove the night before after immediately committing these crimes.
None of this is in his report. None of this is in his report. First of all, when he shuts off his phone, like, I don't understand. You go through this and, yep, that's not on there. What he just said right there is not in his report. It's not in his report. So I respect Steve. I respect Cy. And the question that I would have for them here is, if you appreciate the fact that Steve, that Cy is standing by his work and his report, where is this in that report? Where is what he is saying right here and now in the report? And then Cy, I think, is going to have to say, it's not in my report. And I did it all on my own. Wait, what do you mean you did this all on your own? And Taylor didn't ask you to do this? So that's where I have a question. Like, I don't know. I've never been an expert witness. But this is how I would envision something. This is why they ask you these questions on the stand. So, for example, what material were you provided? Okay. And then from that material, so then I know what you used. Okay. What did the defense hire you to do? Because in his report, it states, But what I noticed in Cyree's report, and I said this from the beginning, I noticed that Cyree never put down what he used to do his report. Like, if you go and look at Tom Slavinsky, if you go and look at all these, the DNA experts, all the different experts in this case, they list the material that they've used, that they relied upon. So, and it's usually right at the beginning of the report. So here, Over the course of November 2023, I was granted access to evidence that was in the possession of the defense. The evidence I reviewed was mainly in reference to call detail records, not specific, mobile device forensic extracts, not specific, mobile device geolocation data, not specific, police reports, drive test, and FBI CAS report. Timelines? What timelines? Who created a timeline here? Surveillance video and financial records. So was the timeline, did the defense create that? Or is that the prosecution timeline that Ann Taylor got from the prosecution because the police put that thing together? Okay? So that's how he states it in his report. We're like, for example, last night when I was going through stuff, Ruth Ballard, Barbara Wolf, they are listing Matt Nodell. They are listing every single piece of evidence that they received. Every single file folder. That's how it's being listed in their reports. So in Cy's report, he's listing categories. The category of call detail records, mobile device forensic extracts. Well, which ones? And then again, what was he asked to do? Interpretation of drive test data and mapping supplied by the state. He's going to be testifying to the analysis of call detail records, geolocation data review and analysis, opinions regarding the FBI draft CAS report and final CAS report. That's it. So the scope of his direct examination and the material that he was provided and what he was asked to do, that's the scope of his testimony at trial. So my question here is I love the fact that I would love to see Cy and Steve work together. Would love it. But my question though is it ethical? I've never seen something like this. If Cy has known, well, first of all, he's in an NDA, right? He was also probably provided client attorney privilege information, right? If he's consulting Ann Taylor with like how to go about trying the case, I don't know. And experts that I've talked to, they've been shocked that this is even occurring, but now I cannot even imagine what they're going to say now. And wow, Cy Ray is talking with the Gonsalveses, even after the fact that Cy Ray, when he just did his interview with Custody Queens, talking about that Ann Taylor, that there's probably a plan in place, blah blah, and that Brian, this is not the last of you've seen of this case, blah blah blah. So I'm just curious. Here's any defendant in the world. Let's just pick a defendant A. Okay. Can you imagine defendant A, his expert witnesses going out and like, I mean, I don't know. Is this a conflict of interest? Is this okay? These are just my questions. I don't know. Again, don't get it twisted. And then is this news to Brian Kohberger? Is this news to... I had no idea that Cy Ray did any of this. I wasn't told about any of this. I wasn't provided any of this information. I'm just hearing about this for the first time on a news broadcast. So that's just my question that I have.
And after he goes to that area, he drives straight to the Snake River just after dusk, getting into the darkness about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And why?
Okay, he has his phone off. Brian Kohberger has his phone off the next day. Brian Kohberger's phone is off according to the state in the probable cause affidavit, okay, that they arrested this man with, and said that he shut his phone off between 5 and 8:30.
Would somebody be driving to the Snake River? He's in the exact same area that he drove the night before after immediately committing these crimes. And after he goes to that area, he drives straight to the Snake River just after dusk, getting into the darkness about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And why would somebody be driving to the Snake?
Okay, in November, it gets dark at like in Idaho. It gets dark because daylight savings just had happened. So it wouldn't be dusk. It's getting dark at like 6. Look at the body worn camera. 5, 6. Okay. What he's saying here is not accurate about the driving in when it's getting dark. It gets dark in Idaho. I've been there during that time of year. Also, we can just watch the body cam. And it starts getting, it's pitch black at 6.
River on that path. It's concerning to me because we also see some activity that is indicative, in my opinion, of him looking at his navigation, specifically.
Again, his opinion.
Using his phone to get into a perfect area. The other thing is
get into a perfect area. So then this map comes up, which is Kohberger's possible path of travel is depicted below, not to scale. Yeah, this is not in his report. This right here is not in Cyray's report. Is this a page out of the state's report? Because that's not public yet. Nick Balance, if this is from Nick Balance's report, that's not public.
Pattern of life. We got 6 months worth of records on Mr. Kohberger. It's very easy for us to see what his normal pattern looks like. This is a complete deviation from that normal pattern, and it stands out. It tells a story.
That's very compelling to hear.
To get into a perfect area. The other thing is pattern of life. We got 6 months worth of records on Mr. Kohberger. It's very easy for us to see what his normal pattern looks like. This is a complete deviation from that normal pattern.
Okay, now this is mind-blowing for me. Absolutely, I am mind-blown here. You want to know why? Because Brian Kohberger's pattern of life, again, this Cyray was not hired to do this, but in his previous interviews and in his report, he said Brian Kohberger's pattern of life is sporadic driving at all hours, all days, different times, all the time. And he just drives around. He just drives around. And so I'm trying to, again, just wrap my head around, like, what's in this report. And then I'm trying to wrap my head around what he's saying. And then I'm trying to wrap my head around what Steve is saying, which is, I really respect Cyray. At least he's standing by his report. And I'm like, well, this isn't in Cyray's report. And Cyray has come out and said something completely different. And unless I am misunderstanding something, which I will totally take on, okay? I listened to this multiple times before, right here and now. And I can go and clip and cut all the different things and and put it out there in a video, you know, but that's not, I like to walk through my thought process how I see something so that there's no ambiguity.
And it stands out. It tells a story.
That's very compelling to hear. And look, it highlights what.
And the police never searched that area, or they did, and what'd they find? If this is pinpointed, then you're basically telling me you know where Brian Kohberger put the clothes and the murder weapon in the water.
Overarching theme has been criticism of prosecutors in this case. Olivia, I want to throw it to you. I understand you have questions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the questions I came prepared for kind of moot compared to this one. So you're speaking of GPS data.
P.S. Olivia nails this interview in terms of asking the question and being clear and concise in what she wants to know. And I give her nothing but props. So love it, Olivia. If you ever get to see this, great job. Can't say enough.
Data, which I'll be honest, I really wasn't aware of. So when you speak turn by turn, is it fair to assume that that data, you mentioned it went back 6 months, was used for the cast report, which did put the defendant at my sister's home on 23 previous occasions? Because I know a lot of pushback that happens is when it comes to this cell tower, they say there's only 2 in Moscow, it only narrows it down 10 miles. Can you kind of help to dispel some of the specificity that can happen with GPS data that was on his device?
Okay, so what she's asking for is about they were told on 23 prior occasions that are in Cy Ray's report because it's in Nick Balance's report, okay? So he takes each one of these times in his report that Nick Balance is talking about, you know, there's 31 slides from July 8th, or I'm sorry, what's the date here? And I do want to also make a note that Cy Ray did say that he had, remember Dylan Mortensen? He had the victims and the surviving roommates' phones, but he couldn't, and Molly's, and Jack Showalter, and Ethan and all them, but he didn't have complete records of theirs. And so there was a handful of people that that were the victims that he didn't even map. So just so we're clear, I want to walk that back a little bit because pages, I think it starts on 7. Let me make sure there's nothing on 8. Yeah. So page 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those are where he's laying out the devices that he used the CDRs from. And a handful of those people, remember, he assigned each of the persons different colors, but a handful of the people he couldn't even map because he didn't have like complete sets, so he didn't do it. And that would be Bethany Funk, Ethan Chapin, Jack Decor, and what did he do with Molly? The location data associated with these files was not analyzed beyond identifying the type of data that was requested from Verizon. So Molly McMichael was not analyzed. So then he does everything that Nick Balance puts out there as far as like these 23 times. Cy Ray in his report says you can never put him at that house. Nobody could ever testify to that. And it's similar to what he says here, but he adds to it. And what he adds to it here, you can't find this anywhere in his report.
Yeah, and I need to break that into two pieces. Number one, the 23 prior visits based on that cast report is 100% inaccurate. It would never hold up in court. Any expert in this field who reviewed that report would be able to show you incredible flaws. The problem, too, is it isn't just one or two. All 23 of those that are reported in the cast report are wrong. They're inaccurate. The times are off. It's just a really bad analysis. With that said, if the agency and the investigators actually dug into the records they have, not only is there evidence.
Okay, so period. That's what his report showed. His report and Tom Slavinsky went through and just dismantled what these 23 times. So everything he just says right there in his report, like, you're going to show them is that the FBI is like, wow, what are you doing? Now this is where we get to the holy shit moment. Ready? Here it is.
Brian Kohberger being the actually dug into the records they have. Not only is there evidence of Brian Kohberger being in the area of that house, there's evidence of him being on the property. There's
What? Ready? Back it all the way up. Cy Ray just basically said that, hey, if you didn't have idiots and you actually came and talked to someone like me, okay, and if the prosecution would have gotten me, I would have been able to show you all this type of all this type of shit. Okay? So again, now think about this.
Or would be able to show you the prior visits based on that cast report is 100% inaccurate. It would never hold up in court. Any expert in this field who reviewed that report would be able to show you incredible flaws. The problem, too, is it isn't just one or two. All 23 of those that are reported in the cast report are wrong. They're inaccurate. The times are off. It's just a really bad analysis.
Okay, so Cy, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Why would they do 23 wrong things, right? But here you're saying that if they would have just actually dug in, that this is what they would have found. Again, this is nowhere in his report right now.
With that said, if the agency and the investigators actually dug into the records they have, not only is there evidence of Brian Kohberger being in the area of that house, there's evidence of him being on the property. There's things that they could follow up on to confirm this. And in my report, and luckily it's just been released, I actually outlined follow-up that would be reasonable to assume an investigator would do to confirm the prior visits to the house, which I think are very critical. Pattern of life is everything in this case, seeing the planning phase and then leading up to the actual murder.
He was not. Okay, so I want to go look at this. The search warrant issued to AT&T for Mr. Kohberger's records included a request for the historical precision location information data. This data was provided by AT&T. As discussed earlier, the reliability and accuracy of this data can widely vary and should be used with caution. With that said, it appears Mr. Kohberger's device is using a map application, possibly navigation guidance at this time. As such, the historical precision location information is extremely accurate during this time period. Again, this is for him talking about like a possible route. In the event of competent investigator reviews the AT&T network connections, the historical precision location information, and the raw FBI drive test data all together in a holistic manner, the inaccuracies of the FBI's purported coverage maps is clear. This could be one reason the coverage maps for these critical cell sites were omitted from the report. And he's going through all of that. Okay. In his report, he says, Essentially, investigators requested and received timing data for all of the cell records they requested with geolocation. There was one exception to this. Investigators requested but did not receive Mr. Kohberger's. It is inconceivable to this investigator that they would not use them and did not have them. He says that, but more importantly, the false timeline of events purported in search warrant affidavits. For these reasons, Mr. Kohberger's timing report was concealed because the timing report would have shown that you never had probable cause. You lied. You made it all up. The exculpatory nature of this report cannot be overlooked. Mr. Kohberger's AT&T records provide a significant detail as it relates to his geolocation's pattern of life. The state's investigation is completely void of these patterns. I can find no reference to Mr. Kohberger's pattern of life in any report, despite demanding 6 months of AT&T records to establish such a pattern. The reason for this is clear to this investigator, as that pattern of life is tremendously exculpatory for Mr. Kohberger. He's talking about pattern of life. In his report, he is saying that the AT&T records establish such a pattern, and that pattern of life is tremendously exculpatory to Mr. Kohberger. That's on page 50 of his report. Investigators relied heavily on an inaccurate analysis to establish probable cause in nearly every search warrant affidavit issued to secure evidence against Mr. Kohberger. These inaccuracies are so extreme, they are beyond accidental oversight. It is my opinion, investigators in this investigation intentionally omitted critical findings, repeatedly and intentionally misled the court, and concealed the exculpatory evidence. As a subject matter expert in this field, who has testified over 100 times as a state witness, on behalf of the prosecution, I have never seen such deviation from established standards and best practices by a subject matter expert as what is seen by Special Agent Nick Balance's final cast report. There is substantial justification to believe that the errors noted in this report are intentional and a complete manipulation of data to support false statements needed to establish probable cause to obtain search warrants against Mr. Kohberger. It is justified to believe critical exculpatory evidence has been concealed by investigators. This would include Mr. Kohberger's AT&T timing data and other data that would be sought as a standard operating procedure, yet somehow was overlooked in this investigation. The absence of this data is an investigation of this nature with the resources available to investigators is beyond unusual. It is simply inconceivable. Period. End of report. Now, what basically Syray is saying is, I was hired to do a job and I did it, and I stand by my report because everything that I'm saying is absolutely 100% true. Okay? The thing that I have an issue with is all of this was to develop probable cause in the beginning, okay? And so you never had it, you lied to get it, right? But his pattern of driving is what you say is he routinely drives in random locations late at night and early in the morning. He is constantly cycling the power on his phone for different periods of time. His daily geolocation patterns are chaotic. Random travel patterns are normal. That is in your report, and that is page 50, number 3. Mr. Kohberger's AT&T records provide a significant detail as it relates to the geolocation pattern of life. A, B, and C. He routinely drives in random locations late at night and early in the morning. B, he is constantly cycling the power on his phone for different periods of time. And C, his daily geolocation patterns are chaotic. Random travel patterns are normal. And then he's going to talk about this specific day out of 6 months. He says he mapped 6 months, 6 months. Well, I have a question. How are you able to do that? But the Barnharts who did the cell right extraction and that they said we're missing gaps and gaps and gaps of, stuff. How do you do a pattern of life on somebody where there's heavily void of data within the 6 months?
Murders themselves do to confirm the prior visits to the house, which I think are very critical. Pattern of life is everything in this case, seeing the planning phase and then leading up to the actual murders themselves. Us being able to piece that back together and tell a comprehensive story that makes sense that's the job of the investigators. So I can tell you that I feel very comfortable that Brian Kohberger was in the general area of the house several times leading up to the murders. I think he.
You guys, this is this is opposite of everything he said to the custody queens. This is opposite of everything he put in his report. He's comfortable saying this, but I have one question. You have 2 universities within a 9-mile radius. Right? Okay.
Came by the house the next morning. I think he came by the house the day after that. So I feel very comfortable that Brian Kohberger was in the general area of the house several times leading up to the murders. I think he came by the house the next morning. I think he came by the house the day after that. So there's more than enough evidence to show that.
Do you know that on the 14th, in the probable cause, they say his phone, remember, it was, investigators have reason to believe that he wasn't there on the 14th. We never heard why investigators believe that, but they put that in the affidavit. And so he's over here saying that he believes that Brian Kohberger went back to the scene. And I'm over here like, wait, this is totally opposite of everything that you've ever fucking told me. In terms of on the 13th and the 14th. He's also saying that nowhere in any of the reports that the state has done has the state claimed this. You understand that? That's really, really important. Cy is telling us something when he's saying that the state never did any of this, okay? What he is telling us about his opinions here, where are those in the opinions of the prosecution? And again, remember, he just wrote a book for methodology. Do you know how expensive it is per person to sign up for that? You have to be law enforcement.
There are databases and ways that if the right people use the right legal process to exploit today, the data's still there. There is some really good information that could come out that I believe would show the device actually.
He just used the word exploit. Listen to this. He's saying that there would be information available still, he thinks, to this day, if the right people exploit. There's a difference between exploit and expose. Okay? Think about that word. And so basically it's like, hey, the FBI, they have the resources. I believe that the data is there to get the timing advanced, even if they didn't go and get it before. They could still get it. That's what I believe that he means by that. Maybe there's more stuff that he's talking about, like, I don't know, identifying maybe some people in the geofence. Who knows? But the the vagueness here, I don't care for it. What are we exploiting? Because guess what? Are we just exploiting? Like, what are we exploiting? Because my take is if you wrong one man, you wrong everybody when you're going about something with violating our rights, right? When you're writing up an affidavit and it's all lies, okay? In order to obtain what? In order to search and seize.
Pattern of life is everything in this case, seeing the planning phase and then leading up to the actual murders themselves, us being able to piece that back together and tell a comprehensive story that makes sense that's the job of the investigators. So I can tell you that I feel very comfortable that Brian Kohberger was in the general area of the house several times leading up to the murders. I think he came by the house the next morning. I think he came by the house the day after that. So there's more than enough evidence to show that. There are data.
I'm going to throw a big old wrench in here. Cyree, I think you might be right. You know what I mean? Like, as far as if you were to take, as far as the state not doing this, as far as the state not taking Brian Kohberger and all the victims and the surviving roommates and maybe even like their friends, right? And overlaying them and looking at a 6-month period of where they were going and did they ever, cross paths. Ready for this though? Maybe there's a reason they didn't do it. Did you ever think about that? Maybe there's a reason they didn't do it because of what it would expose as well. We can't expose Brian Kohberger this way because it's going to expose something as well. And bring in potentially your police accomplices. Or that maybe Brian Kohberger was just the accomplice and that there was a police officer or two that were running the show. But if what you were saying is accurate, then I believe that there is a reason they didn't fucking do it. Because they're capable. And I think it's because it would expose other people. My 2 cents, which makes sense with the crime being committed by more than one person,
Bases in ways that if the right people use the right legal process to exploit today, the data's still there. There is some really good information that could come out that I believe would show the device actually at or inside the house opposed to just near it.
Steve, this isn't
At or inside the house, the device inside the house. Cyree believes that the device was inside the house? What? You think that but it would do what? Let's be honest. He's going to say, but then I would have to say this to you, Cy. Yeah, but if we did all this, though, it would expose that that the probable cause that they wrote up was all bullshit because the timing advance would prove that none of the sorts happened leading up, and that car is not moving in concert and stuff like that, right? It would expose that big old lie, right? But Hilper doesn't seem to care. You guys, I have read Cyree's report probably 7 times, and what he is saying in here, and what he's saying here, I just don't. I mean, I'm at a complete loss because I'm at also a complete loss of ethical, professional. I mean, I'm at a complete loss. He just said that if you go and exploit this data and go and get the higher powers go exploit this and go in there and get it, because he still thinks it exists, this data that you could go and get, which I believe he's talking about Brian's timing advance records. Okay. And And then if you go and you get this data, it's going to put Brian Kohberger in the motherfucking house. I'm in a frozen shock phase for the moment. Hold on.
Important conversation based on what we talked about last night. I'll say it again. I'll say it one more time. I think the likelihood that he gets a new trial is very, 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 very low. But if this is now a conversation about a potential new trial, is there going to, do you want Cy to be part of this push for investigators, for law enforcement, for prosecutors to essentially, if I'm understanding this all correctly, be more thorough?
It's almost bigger than that. Technology is moving so fast. It's radically fast. And I'm an IT guy and I can barely keep up. These courtrooms, when they were talking about a JSON file, I just wanted to jump up in front of the judge and say, this is ridiculous. There's no expert in the room right now. So I think what we need to do is embrace technology more. And we need to have experts that are actually driven just based off of technology. And things have to change. I mean, the courtroom, I'm watching somebody typing when the whole thing's being recorded. They resist change. They don't want change. We have to embrace change. And that's how we get justice, is we start embracing, this technology. And that.
Okay, well then if we're going to embrace change, I'm with Steve on this. Hell yeah. But let me say how I think we should embrace change. There should be no such thing as sides. Okay? All the experts in the case should have to work together. Ooh, Lana, what do you mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is that the defense and the prosecution, they can hire whoever they want, right? But these experts should be communicating, okay, and going back and forth and sharing information, okay? Because if it's about the truth, then you should never be concealing anything. There should be no room to be unethical. Another change we need is that if it's about change, we need, as soon as there's any homicide cases, even if you want to say, without a doubt, homicide cases. If there's a prosecutor involved, there's going to be the public defender's office involved. Period. The public defender's office, for each homicide that happens, just like a prosecutor's assigned, they need to be there for checks and balances to make sure that stupid shit isn't happening. Why not? Again, if this is about truth, then once they become with a defendant, whatever, if the defendant wants a private attorney, okay, they get a private attorney, but they would be able to get all of the information from the public defender's office and this is where you would develop these agencies, like Fight for a Family, because public defender's offices, they need help. There's not enough manpower. You need researchers to divide up and go through your discovery. AI, I think, is going to make a big help with that. It should be. The public defender's office should be using that. But somebody that actually goes, it's one thing to organize it maybe, but you need somebody that actually can go through and know how to connect the dots to help somebody. But if we're talking about the truth, okay, there should be no sides.
That's what I'm trying to say is this case, bring it on. The evidence is there. I'm not scared of it. I actually think there's so much undiscovered evidence that this case is actually should have been case law. It should have been case law. And it's unfortunate that we didn't get there. And I'm trying to save another family from dealing with the same headache that we just went through. And
yeah, it should have been case law by them truly doing IGG the way that they did and not running from it. But there's a bigger issue here, okay? Why didn't the question get asked, Cyree, what is the much larger issue here? And you know what the much larger issue here is with all of this? That's great that we're all talking about this and doing all this. The much larger issue is that this case never gets brought to trial, at least not with this evidence, because there was no probable cause. The prosecution lied about everything. So the question is, if Brian Kohberger wins, and I think that Cyree thinks that Brian Kohberger has a pretty good chance. Wait till you hear his comment about this, about if there's ineffective assistance of counsel. He thinks it was ineffective all the way around, to include the defense. That everybody involved in this case was ineffective. Which I agree. I agree with that statement. But there's so much evidence in this case that should not see the light of day in a courtroom. And people that are called supposedly expert witnesses that you're going to be able to allow to get up there and testify on the stand. Guess what Mowry was going to testify to? Guess what Darren Gilbertson was going to testify to? They went through all of these devices. They went through all these people's social medias, and they could not link Brian Kohberger to the victims or the surviving roommates and vice versa. That's the opinion of the state. So one should ask themselves, wow, the state could have had a chance to put Brian Kohberger in the house doing this, doing that, on the corner of the road where Brian Kohberger's phone is at, and so is one of the victims or one of the surviving roommates on the same little corner of the street, and the state doesn't want to use that. You know what that tells me? It tells me two things. Either it's not the case, or number two, which I think is worse, is that there's somebody else there in addition to, and that's what it would expose. And trust me, the only people that the police cover for is the police. And so I've always said that something has never sat right with me when it comes to the WSU law enforcement, Pullman law enforcement, Moscow law enforcement. We know Idaho State Police, they suck at their job, and all these people are yes men or yes women. And if somebody tells you to do something, you do it, or you're fucking out. And they cover for themselves. And they cover for themselves if it's just a stupid, silly mistake. Because for some reason, the world believes that cops don't make mistakes. Like, I cannot believe the amount of people that believe everything that a cop does and that they don't. It's crazy. Especially when you consider the fact that a lot of these people, not all, but a lot of these people, they're not book smart. They can't spell. They can't write a report. They're just not smart. Okay. They're not as intelligent as other people. And that's why they decided back in the day, I'm going to go off to the police academy, do this for 6 months, and I'm going to become a police officer. Not all. And then these police officers that are doing patrol, then they're just getting promoted just because they've been around for a while. Then I just would think that I would rather correct a mistake and write up a new report the next day and say, hey, I went back over this and da-da-da-da-da, and you know what? It's not possible that I cleared that at this time because this is what time this says and da-da-da.
We're talking about life and death, and it's that important.
I mean, Cy said it before. Two things could be true at once. Brian Kohberger could be guilty, but there could be faulty parts of the investigation.
Exactly.
Olivia, you said you...
These aren't faulty parts of the investigation. Two things can be true, meaning that Brian Kohberger could be guilty, but he He could have done the crime, but the police violated his rights. And so therefore, all of the stuff that you're using against him, you wouldn't be able to use. So it's great that you think that he did it. But you're losing every piece of evidence that you have. Because there was no probable cause. You lied and you made this shit up. So what would you be going to trial with? You're not able to use the phone records. You're not able to use the sheath. What are you using? You don't have an eyewitness. What are you using? Everything flows from the arrest warrant that's faulty. What can you use? You can use the car. You can use just the fact that there's a white circling car and he has a white car.
You had other questions that you felt are moot. What are those other questions that you had, or anything that you want to address for Sai?
Yeah, so a lot of my questions were just about kind of the analysis and how specific we can get, data. I have my phone right here. Obviously, it's connected to Wi-Fi, but let's say it wasn't. Could you know that I was right here just with cell tower data? Or would it require an additional piece like a timing advance record?
It would definitely require something additional than just cell tower connections. And I think the question you're asking is really pivotal, and it mirrors exactly what Steve is bringing out. You have to ask for it. You have to know what to ask for. You have to know the proper legal process to obtain it. And then the most important thing here is you have to be able to analyze it. You have to be able to properly analyze it. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds of some of the knowledge that I'm talking about.
But they didn't have that with Brian Kohberger. So how could you do it? Do you understand? Steve, do you have Brian Kohberger's timing advance records? Do you understand that? He just answered. This is why I said Olivia nails the freaking interview. Olivia asked, here, I have my phone. It's right next to me. Right now, yeah, I'm connected to Wi-Fi. But let's say that I wasn't. Let's say that I'm not on Wi-Fi. But my phone's still on. What can you do? Do you need more than... And he's like, yes, you do. Okay, to be able to pinpoint what Ray was talking about, his opinion on being in the house, being in the corner here, he can show all this stuff. How can you do that? Why isn't it in your report? How can you do that? What do you have that the state doesn't? They asked for the timing advance. They're saying that that it wasn't supplied to them because it was past 7 days. Nobody's ever asked Sai. I know that I know that was one of my questions to ask him. Sai, did you use your connections, just like how the FBI uses their connections to, get stuff backdoored? Were you supplied Brian Kohberger's timing advance records? And now I have to ask myself, do I think that he's going to be honest about that?
Because some of this hasn't been released, but I feel very comfortable stating there is no work product in this case that took the 4 victims' phones, 6 months worth of records, which they have, it's in evidence, took Brian Kohberger's 6 months worth of records and sat down and did a deep dive analysis of seeing where those devices intersect and when they collide. And I feel very comfortable in this next statement that if somebody did that on the prosecution investigative side, it's not a mystery of where some of these connections happened. It's not a mystery of what I'm going to say, at least the pre-planning phase of this crime. There's some very telling evidence in those phone records that, to your point, we can be a little bit more specific. We can be a little bit more isolated instead of just saying, well, both phones are in Moscow. Yeah, no, they're actually both on the same street corner.
Okay, so that would mean that you're running. You have you have Google Maps, so you have Google. But Kaylee was the only person I was told that had Google, that they went for her stuff. But you have these third-party apps that they're running, like Snapchat. It's tracking you, okay? So you'd find an app that was tracking you GPS-wise, okay? And so what he's basically saying is if you overlay Brian Kohberger with the four victims, and I'm over here like, okay, well, we'd like to go to your report, and it says all T-Mobile mappable data was converted to a Google Earth time-synced KML file using the LexisNexis Tracks program. This device was assigned to the color pink for the mapping purposes. That would be Kaylee. Kaylee was pink. The sector representations utilized for this analysis are wedge shapes to stay consistent with the FBI CAS analysis. The Google Earth KML file can be loaded and reviewed on any computer running the Google Earth program. So the KML file was preserved in the Ray Discovery folder, mapped records, Kaylee Gonsalves combined. So you did, Kaylee was in pink. You did Ethan. It says Ethan, unknown Verizon case number. I was unable to find a complete set of records for Ethan in the discovery provided to date. I was able to find some different reports that indicated the CDRs for the device were obtained, and at least in part, some analysis was done in regards to common calls. I was also able to find some of the RTT timing data for this device as well. As a result, this device was not mapped in my analysis. So Ethan wasn't mapped. Kaylee, because of T-Mobile, but you're talking about those phone records. It doesn't talk about different apps. Then you go to Dylan Mortensen. She was T-Mobile. Data sessions. This report provides a tower data for data sessions occurring between August and November. Timing advance records you have for Dylan. It is important to detail the T-Mobile record process when responding to court-ordered requests. T-Mobile uses internal case numbers to track such requests. In this case, T-Mobile's internal case number associated with Dylan Mortensen records is 4116581. That was for 4782. Why did Dylan Mortensen have two different case numbers? Dylan was assigned redacted color for the map purposes. The same thing, you did the Google Earth and it uploaded. Computer performance will impact load times and cache times. Then I know that you had there was an Excel, there was like a spreadsheet, there was like a PowerPoint. Okay? But I know what you were not going to show is that Brian Kohberger was with these people at any time. Then you talk about Bethany Funk. Bethany gets one little blurb and it says, similar to Chapin's records, I was unable to find a complete set of CDRs for this device. I was unable to confirm the existence of RTT timing reports. She didn't get mapped. So Ethan doesn't get mapped. Bethany doesn't get mapped. Molly McMichaels, she doesn't get mapped. Jack Decor, I was unable to find original Verizon CDRs for this device. I was able to locate RTT timing reports. This device location data was not included in my analysis. Jack Decor wasn't included. In this analysis, I converted all the geolocation data described above into mappable files. The mappable files are created in keyhole markup language, allowing the work product to be reviewed by anyone with a computer in free version of Google Earth. I would like that. The connections were synced to data and timing, allowing for the animation of device patterns over the time. Each device was assigned a specific color to allow anyone to identify and follow a specific device. Once mapped, I viewed each data set independently as well as with other devices to establish patterns of life and possible device interactions. In going through this process, all of my work is documented and preserved for peer review and critique as needed. It should be noted this type of documentation is a common, well-established practice throughout the law enforcement community. Documenting the methodology used, findings, conclusions, follow-up requests, and finalized work product is the only way to present a work product that can be properly presented for peer review or critique. As a point of concern, I am completing this report without the benefit of receiving completed work from the state's experts, as it relates to methodology and opinion. Reports associated with the call detail record analysis are overly vague, incomplete, and generally contain no substantive value. In my analysis, connections between Mr. Kohberger and any of the decedents and or associates of the decedents, the common call report, I was able to locate sporadic files and reports that indicated a common call report was completed. However, the documentation is extremely poor as to what files were used. A common call report is an analysis that is done to see if there are any commonalities between phone numbers interacted with Mr. Kohberger and any of those with the decedents. If my review is correct, based on the data produced, the defense, the only common number was a U-Haul dealership. I reviewed all of the common CDRs associated with each of the deceased's and Mr. Kohberger from a time period of June through November. In doing so, I am unable, he says just CDRs. So he says, I reviewed all of the common CDRs associated. Just CDRs. In doing so, I am unable to find any common numbers that would connect Mr. Kohberger to any of the decedents in any way. Geolocation data is a standard analysis that indicates when devices may have interacted directly by being in the same place at the same time between parties of interests. In this case, a geolocation report would have shown if Mr. Kohberger and any of the decedents and or their associates are in the same place at the same time. With the exception of slides 26 through 30 in the FBI CAS final report, I am unable to find any documentation created or mapping files used of the attempts to conduct such a geolocation analysis. It is outside of best practice in this field that an analysis would not have been done and thoroughly documented in a case of this nature. My opinion is based on the following. Slides 26 through 30 are severely flawed and misrepresent the data. Statements presented in a probable cause statements without additional geolocation data, and for this very reason, misrepresent what is reported as facts of the case. The inculpatory and or exculpatory nature of any findings connecting Mr. Kohberger to any of the decedents is a cornerstone of this investigation. There is no evidence mapping files that have been turned over by the state to support any meaningful analysis on this point. While I have identified locations Mr. Kohberger and the deceased frequented in common stores located in the small community, I am unable to pinpoint any time periods that may indicate any persons of interest could have come into direct contact in these common locations. I am unable to locate any period of time between June 23rd, 2022 and November 13th, 2022, where Mr. Kohberger's mobile device is in the same specific area as any of the decedent's mobile devices. I am unable to identify any patterns that would be consistent to Mr. Kohberger frequenting locations also frequented by the deceased. It is my opinion that the geolocation data I have been provided as of the writing of this report does not provide any evidence of association between Mr. Kohberger and any of the decedents and or Mr. Kohberger's or the decedent's residence. Now, key words here, because this is what experts do. Then an expert can word things a lot of different ways to make it look really, really good. He says, it is my opinion that the geolocation data I have been provided, meaning from the state, which you guys have provided me, what I have been provided, as of the writing of this report, does not provide any evidence of association between. So my question is, what evidence weren't you provided that you potentially got on your own, or however the fuck you would ever be saying the things that you're saying to be able to say what you're saying? Because in your report, so these are the hard questions to ask. So isn't it true as an expert, you can fluff a ton of shit because, hey, if you just word it like this, I'm not lying? But this is misleading? If what you're saying here is true, then what you're saying here is misleading. And I don't think that he should ever be an expert. And I don't think that anybody should ever be experts anymore. It is my opinion that the state's experts have intentionally misrepresented the data in the FBI CAS report. It cannot be simply explained away as simple error or oversight. Further details provided in section 4 and 5. And so basically what Cyree is coming out and saying is, listen, guys, these guys, well, he said that he doesn't think that they suck and they've been trained properly and they know what they're doing, and this was deliberate. This was deliberate. Then he writes a book and says that none of it's deliberate. And now he's saying, if they would have just hired me, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. Because I would have found all this shit and everything that I found that is outside the scope of why I was retained. And I don't know if Cyree just feels like, hey, I wasn't paid, so I can just say whatever the fuck I want. I have no idea. That's why I would never take an expert that didn't take money. Because I would never want them to feel some type of way that they could just do whatever because they didn't charge. You know what I mean? I think that, hey, if you want to take the money and donate it, go right the fuck ahead. But I have to do it this way. Because it just seems really hard to basically, what information are you using? Because, I mean, I'm reading straight from his report. And he's probably going to say, well, yeah, Lana, what they want to use is what I'm saying, that nothing that they're trying to use in their reports, I'm going off of that. And my other question would be is, well, Ann Taylor only hired you to do X, Y, and Z, right? So what were you doing? Were you like, why didn't you just peer review and stay with a peer review? How about that? You were just supposed to peer review. So why did you, Tom Slavinsky found all this shit. Tom Slavinsky came to you to peer review his work because he found it all. And somehow Tom Slavinsky gets lost in all of this. Tom Slavinsky did the work, saw, holy shit, he's like, what the hell's going on here? This is wild. Hits up Cyree to basically peer review his work. But he couldn't peer review the work without telling Ann Taylor, right? And saying, hey, and then Cyree just being brought in on an NDA and not being able to disclose, but you can peer review, right? And that's it. Think about this. Why did it move from that? You have Carol Pendon and you have Kevin Pendon. They're doing the pattern of life. I mean, how did Cyray, wouldn't it be a conflict of interest to have your cell phone expert, not your cell phone, your geolocation expert hits up somebody to peer review his work, okay? And then how did Ann Taylor, who's such a closed off person and is keeping everybody at arm's distance and she's doing a lot of the work herself, how did it get to be like, okay, I'm going to have this conversation with Cyray and I'm going to use him to consult on the case? I see like a lot of people trying to rewrite history here. Everybody wanted a piece of the pie. You want to know why? Because everybody wanted to expose the FBI. And the FBI has been using caste and to railroad people. That was the whole point of this, is to expose caste and to expose what the FBI is doing with it. That was the purpose. Period. I have no idea why Ann Taylor would ever confide and consult in somebody that told me that they thought my client was guilty and they hadn't even seen the evidence. And especially after they just brought in on the peer review to see how the fucking FBI did what they did. Again, Ann Taylor hired Tom Slavinsky. Tom Slavinsky found shit that was like, wow. He then wants to hit up Cyray to ask questions. He's like, I can't go into all this stuff. I'm going to have to see if I can bring you in because he's in an NDA. And so if you listen to the end of this part of the conversation, it doesn't vibe with me.
Or more importantly, there's a couple phones that belong in Moscow that are in Pullman at times. And there's an intersection and a collision between Kohberger and a couple of the victims in Pullman. So the evidence is there. It just needs to be properly analyzed.
Cy, I just got to jump in 1 second as I'm listening to you speak, and I'm listening to your expertise in this and thinking that you were retained by the defense at one point. You are quite knowledgeable. You are the kind of expert that any side would want.
All of you fucking mainstream media people burned him at the stake. He's a conspiracy theorist. He's getting he's trash, blah, blah, blah. It's just fucking hilarious to me. It's just absolutely hilarious to me.
Did you, in your experience, the reason I say that is because Brian Kohberger is saying he had bad lawyers. He had ineffective assistance of counsel. That's what he's claiming right now. I'm thinking, all I've ever heard is that he had good attorneys. And if they were considering you, I feel like that's a good attorney. From your perspective, do you think that he had incompetent, ineffective counsel from your experiences on that side?
Boy, that's a loaded question.
It sure is, but I'm asking it.
Okay, Jesse. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I think that there's plenty of ineffectiveness to go around on the defense side, prosecution side, and quite honestly, and I won't be very popular for saying this, on the judge side, I think there's critical errors that were made throughout this entire case where it's just this giant snowball that kept picking up speed as it went. One of the biggest things, and just to be clear, I got involved in this case because I did a peer review. The actual expert on the case ran into a problem, didn't know what to do, called me. I looked at it, I thought I'd be done.
Listen, it wasn't a problem, though. I don't think he ran into a problem. He ran into a, holy shit, what the fuck is this type of thing. I wouldn't consider it a problem. What I believe that he ran into, holy shit, what did I uncover? Because this can't be right, because he's talking about the coverage areas, and he wanted somebody to check his work, because basically what he uncovered is that the FBI changed the coverage areas. that the FBI fucked with it all. So he uncovered it. And Cyree just tells us right here that, yeah, I was hit up as just the peer reviewer. Exactly. How does that change? Why would you ever insert yourself on a case like this? If it goes against everything that is your being, you would just, hey, he's like, normally I just do this. Well, then what changed? Why did you do anything different? Why did you insert yourself?
Next thing I know, I kind of got sucked into this thing.
Yeah.
So
Next thing I know, I kind of got sucked into this thing. What?
I think there was critical errors that were made throughout this entire case where it's just this giant snowball that kept picking up speed as it went. One of the biggest things, and just to be clear, I got involved in this case because I did a peer review. The actual expert on the case ran into a problem, didn't know what to do, called me.
Got it.
I looked at it, I thought I'd be done. Next thing I know, I kind of got sucked into this thing.
Yeah.
So it was never my intent to be involved in this case. And I'll say it time and time again. I told the defense probably at least 100 times.
I cannot even believe this shit. I cannot even believe this. I cannot believe this. This is nuts. It was to expose the fucking FBI. It was for expose the cast team. In what they are doing with cast. No one threatened Cyree. You guys, nobody threatened Cyree. If you guys truly don't see what's happening here, it's right in front of your faces. I'm not even going to say it because everybody should know it. I got sucked into this. Wait, what? I'm calling Ann Taylor. Yeah, Wednesdays we have the sirens that go off to make sure that we have our emergencies all in place. Ann Taylor, are we going to see a letter from this? I'm just curious. Did Cyree get sucked into this? Ann Taylor, do you have any comments about Cyree getting sucked into this case? I just don't see how that... Who gets sucked into anything? That's fucking nuts. I just can't even believe that. I couldn't even imagine, you guys, what the fuck? If I was a defendant here and I'm screaming from the rooftops that I'm innocent, and then my fucking lawyer, she gets me to fucking take a plea deal. And then I'm like, fuck you, dude. You didn't give me everything. I knew it. I always maintained my innocence, and you made me do this stupid shit. Okay? And then now I gotta see my other expert coming out here. I don't even know what to say about this. I don't know what to think about it. I've never seen something like this in my entire life watching any case. And so if Ann Taylor does not issue a fucking letter, all right, because Cyree just called you ineffective. Cyree is basically saying Ann Taylor was ineffective. Everybody was ineffective here. Even the judge. I mean, what the fuck? This is Tina. This is Tina. If you don't have a comment about the actual material, don't make comments in my chat about people. Delete that shit, mods. I'm not gonna see that shit in my fucking chat. Unreal. I don't even know.
The best thing that happened for Brian Kohberger is that we were never contacted to help provide assistance on this case. That's my job.
The best thing that ever happened to Brian Kohberger is that the prosecution never reached out to us. What the fuck? Oh my God, I need a shot.
Across the country every day, across the world. If I feel very comfortable in saying if myself or some other experts in this field around the United States were contacted early and brought into this investigation, we would not be having this conversation tonight.
Well, let me tell you something.
I don't want to interrupt.
No, please.
But that's not the first time I've heard that. I've heard other experts say the exact thing to me. Said, Steve, you reached out to me. I'm here. I'm an expert, and they won't talk to me. So let me
Exactly. And why do you think not? Because what an expert would actually reveal, okay, is more of the actual narrative of who else is involved in this. What is it going to point to? And I think it's going to point to the fucking police. That's what I think. And I have no problem saying it now. I'm saying it loud and proud. Nobody covers like this, okay? If what Cy is saying is accurate, then there's other people's phones there. Not just Brian Kohberger's when he's around whoever. If that stuff is true, then there's other people's phones, and I believe that those people's phones are police, law enforcement, okay? Because this is absurd. If what he has, if what Cy is saying, okay, then, I mean, Idaho should be, all of the citizens of Idaho should be losing their minds. Because this is nuts. And there's a much larger issue here, though. Is that none of this can be trusted. If you're a citizen and you heard all this shit in a courtroom, and that the feds are doing this and MPD's doing this and Idaho State Police is doing this and everyone's lying and deleting reports and changing stuff, it's just one lie fest, right? You're going to convict somebody off of that? Truly ask yourself that. If you're going to convict somebody, if you're going to be, because that's who we are, we're the lay people here, right? We could be called for jury duty. There is no way in hell that if what we all have seen was going to come out in a courtroom, there is no way in hell you are getting me to vote guilty. And that's what needs to change. That's what's going to make these people change and do their jobs differently. Is we as jurors, a reasonable doubt, if there is there a reasonable doubt here? And the answer is yes. Karen Reed, same thing, reasonable doubt. Way more evidence against Karen Reed. Reasonable doubt. Why? Because you can't trust the investigation. And now we're supposed to listen to the fact that, hey, if Cy Ray was to work for the prosecution in this case, that we would not even be having this conversation. Because I would have testified, and the way that I would have testified for the prosecution would have basically buried his ass. Huh? And I'm over here like, what? And he's basically saying that the people that did this case, what, they suck? Well, I would be asking myself, first of all, they don't suck. They're the people that put Lori Vallow away. And Chad, I thought Nick Balance was like a bigwig. I thought you got under oath and said that, nope, I know these guys, Kennedy and Nick Balance. Nope, they're trained. So then who are the phone people that do what you do? What, Maori? We haven't got to that part. Who was doing any of the, and basically what Cy Ray is saying is that that's the thing, Lana. Nobody did it. Nobody did any of that work. That's what the FBI people do, though. They have a specialist that was doing cars. You don't think that the FBI mapped these people? That's what you're saying? That the FBI, they went to IGG and had no problem doing that? You don't think they said, hey, give us all these devices and watch us whip this shit up? We're going to put them all together. That's what these specialists do at the FBI. Why didn't they do it? Why didn't they track these phones and do pattern of life? It's probably because there's a problem. Just saying. You don't think so? Because if what he is claiming is true, then who in their right mind wouldn't do it? There's a disconnect here. And there has to be a reason that they couldn't do it. Are you saying they couldn't do it because they'd have to reveal Brian's timing advance records? Well, you seem to do it without him. Doesn't make any sense. But it does if you don't want to expose other people. And who would you care about not exposing what? I thought Brian Kohberger did this by himself. I thought this was only one person. I don't believe that for a second. Not with all the activity that was going on, not all the lying that was going on, and quite frankly, because his car is completely clean. And if you want to say that he's in his car, he's driving over to Snake and doing all of this, where did they attempt to take that soil sample from for the shovel? That was in PA that traced back to. Atlanta, new papers are filed. Yeah, did he get a where did he filed for that for a public defender? Did they give him somebody?
I'm sure this is.
Let's take a look. Unreal to me. Well, Howard Blum is going to blow your mind. Howard Blum's like, Brian isn't the main guy. He's the accomplice, and he's about to blow the load, the mother load. Brian is just gearing up to blow the mother load on his accomplice. And I said, excuse me? Yeah. So here it is. Megyn Kelly features Howard Blum. Jeez. Ooh-wee.
This is Brian Kohberger writing. It is self-evident that in State v. Kohberger, justice was not served. Unanswered questions seem to multiply with each piece of discovery
and the
unsealed,
public demands the truth.
and the public demands the truth.
Unfortunately, the truth shall never be derived from the state's myopic narrative,
a
work of fiction
which has yet to evolve
since
the PCA, that's probable cause affidavit,
was released
nearly
threats asserted by petitioner's legal counsel. And then he goes on to say the following: failure to disclose of or review exculpatory evidence, i.e., unknown hair in Chapin's hand during plea discussions. B, that was A. B, counsel's insistence that petitioner's plea need not be truthful, despite petitioner's vehement denial of actual guilt. C, promises made by counsel regarding LWAP, life without parole, status. Counsel, so in other words, promises made by counsel regarding my life without parole status. And then in parentheses, he writes, i.e., immediate contact visits, freedom of movement.
I mean, they didn't promise him contact visits. No lawyer is going to promise an inmate contact visits when they're serving life without parole for multiple homicides. That's just nuts. That is him Monday morning quarterbacking his decision that he made when he was faced with the death penalty, and he had a really good deal and his lawyers did a really good job getting rid of the death penalty. And he's just having sour grapes at this point. And I hope that they give him a hearing so that his lawyers can take the stand, because this waives privilege. So once he claims this, the lawyers now can get up there and they can talk about that conversation and they can say exactly what happened and what he was talking about. But I think this is just sour grapes. He is bored. He wants something that he never could get, which is a much better prison sentence, a much better gig, and he just wants to stay relevant.
And that's why you're probably boring in bed.
Okay, here's the problem. Well, I mean, there's multiple.
A plea, and there are state variations of that. California, we call it People versus West. You say it's in my best interest. In this case, I entered this. I'm still maintain my innocence, but I'm going to enter the plea because I don't want to be put to death. He is not articulating that, and what you just showed is a problem for that. He could have insisted as part of his plea deal that I want a Alford, so-called Alford plea, which he did not do. That's number one. Number two, be careful what you wish for, because I watched an interview with one of the victim's fathers last night, and he basically welcomed a trial. And you might remember
Steve Gonsalves.
Steve, and he also mentioned the fact that they were not really consulted when this plea agreement came, and they thought that the prosecution did a horrific job. In fact, a lot of the things he was saying last night, to some degree, bolster this request to set it aside. I mean, this case and this filing, if you will, which looks like a really bad ChatGPT filing, taken on its own, it would have zero traction. But if you have the victims coming in and under a Marcy's law, or they make the claim that they were never consulted and that they didn't have a voice here, I could see where some judge would give them the opportunity to be heard. And I don't think it's a high likelihood, but somebody might say, okay, I've got both sides agreeing that they want a trial. Let's give them a trial. You know,
Talk about a twist right there. Okay, hold on. This isn't Howard Blum, though, so hold on.
Ironically,
Steve Gonsalves has been objecting to that plea from the beginning. There's been some question about whether at least one of the other four victims.
Okay, here we go. Howard Blum. And then going into Nolan.
Pleadings last year, and he was just setting the stage for this. The chickens have come home to roost. When the prosecutor didn't ask for an allocution, when they didn't have the questions that still remain, demand answers as to why did this happen, why this house, why these kids. Well, it just sets the stage for Kohberger's next move. I believe at this moment he's sitting in his cell laughing and planning out his next move after this.
What do you think led to this? I mean, do you think he's been in prison for a year now? He just can't stand the conditions, or what do you think?
I think yes, he clearly can't stand the conditions, and that's pretty good. At least that's somewhat gratifying, I would think, to the families of the victims. But he's been playing this very carefully. He cozied up to his defense team. He let them put their hands around him in court, and then he pleads guilty. And yet he's now is able to turn on them. He's able to say that they betrayed him. He has no compunctions about it.
This is Tina with What the Fuck Translation Services. What would you like Brian Kohberger to do when all cameras are on him and these women are groping him? Okay? He's not touching them. They are touching him. And what do you mean he's allowing it? What do you want him to do? Backhand the hose? I mean, what is going on in this world? Brian Kohberger is allowing his attorneys to, grope him during sentencing. Now he's over here claiming ineffective assistance of counsel just because, why? Because he's laughing at people. What?
And I think he's waiting very carefully. As I said before, he has a real power. He's the only one who knows what happened that night. And he's going to play that power for what it's worth. The time will come.
You guys just heard him say, he is the only one that knows what happened that night. Now listen to these next sentences. Do these people truly listen to what the hell they say? Listen to this.
When he reveals more, it'll be a slow process. He's going to let it all spill out carefully until he gets up to his big reveal. And what's his big reveal? Well, it's something you and I have discussed before. I believe that there was an accomplice, and I think the facts point in that direction.
I mean, this would be such a huge bombshell. It would rattle the country if that were true. But I know this isn't just Howard Blum speculation. You have very good reasons for believing he actually may have had somebody commit this crime with him. And Brian Kohberger may even have been in the assistant position when it came to these 4 murders as opposed to the lead.
Yes, I believe that, Kohberger didn't have an accomplice. He, in fact, was the accomplice. But, how do I come to that conclusion? I'm not a conspiracy.
This is Tina with What the Fuck Transition Services. Wow. Well, I mean, you could have fooled me because a minute ago you just said that Brian Kohberger is the only one who knows and he has all the power. But here, you're saying that Brian Kohberger was, not only did he do this with somebody else, but he was basically the bitch. He was the accomplice to the other person. What? Was he a police officer? Because then we could jive. Because then I could feel you. Now we're talking, Howard. Because you might be onto something, right?
Theorist. I'm a reporter by training, worked at the New York Times for many years. I believe in facts, and these facts just don't add up. This is what brought us to this present juncture. Let's look for starters, quite simply, at the timeline. 4 people were killed, 2 different floors of the house within 9 to 10 minutes, and then you get the forensic reports. 1 person was stabbed 54 times. Another one 32 times. 2 people fought back. Noses were broken. There was real carnage. It would be impossible for 1 person to have done that within the 9 to 10 minute frame in a dark house on 2 floors, a house where he had never been in before, according to the prosecutor.
There was also a question about whether there had been attempts to clean up the crime scene. And if that had happened, there's a serious question about how on earth he possibly could have done that in that limited time frame.
Exactly. I mean, there's also a question of were the bodies staged. There's questions if the bodies were actually moved. Who did that? Could he have killed these poor 4 young victims and then move bodies, clean up afterwards? There's so many unanswered questions. In this case, should not have gone to a plea deal without these questions being resolved. And as I said, now these chickens are coming home to roost, and Kohberger is going to try to exploit it as best he can.
What do you guys think about this? I mean, I agree with Howard here talking about more than 1 person, right? But Howard Blum is saying that Brian Kohberger did this, but he wasn't the main dude. Well, how does Brian Kohberger get into the capacity of a, you want to ride shotgun on this with me?
You reported that the knife sheath, which has been, the subject of so many reports and so much speculation, did have Kohberger's touch DNA on the snap, as we've known for quite some time. But you reported not long ago that there was another person's DNA on the knife sheath, and that there was another person's DNA throughout the house in a couple of spots, a male DNA, yes. Unknown DNA. We have never compared, but go on, explain what you're talking about.
On the knife sheath, there is a spot of male DNA. That was never followed up by the authorities because, well, you don't ask questions when you don't want to know the answers. They had zeroed in on Kohberger. They thought he was their man, so they did not want to find out what this possibly could mean. It might complicate their case. Then there was other male DNA found in the house on a stairwell and also on a glove outside the house. And again, these have never been examined. And there's been never a very convincing, at least to me, explanation about why these weren't examined. And this sets the stage for doubts. We have a large vacuum. And the prosecution before, as I said at the beginning of this, could have cleared everything up at the beginning by demanding answers if Kohberger wants his plea deal. Now Kohberger will drag this all out, dropping pieces of information, I believe, over the years ahead, bit by bit, as he builds up to his great reveal when he gets completely bored.
I mean, it's really like we're getting into this now because he's demanding to withdraw his guilty plea. He wants a trial. He says he understands that puts the death penalty back on the table. He doesn't care. And of course, we're going to bring in our lawyers in a minute. Many lawyers responded with a laugh to this petition, saying this is a frustrated, unhappy life sentence guy who's just trying to get out of jail free pass for a few weeks or maybe even a day for a hearing. But we would like to actually look at whether the guy has a shot, whether he does have evidence that could be considered. If he's able to convince a court he does deserve another shot. And that's where you come in, because you've been taking a fair look at what's out there. What he's claiming in his motion, Howard, is that Ethan Chapin, one of his victims, had a clump of hair in his hand
right
at the time he was killed, and that this was not shared with him, Brian Kohberger, by his counsel. Now, we have reason to dispute that, but that's one of the main reasons he's claiming he deserves a new trial.
Right, and that the clump of hair was, they never tested the DNA of that hair, but they did make a presumption based on scientific evidence that that bit of hair belonged to Ethan, had come from his sheets or whatever. But again, this is one of the many questions that the government, the prosecution, never tried to answer because they did not want to know the answers. They had their case, and from the very beginning, they wanted it just to go away, just the way they tore down the murder house. They couldn't wait to get it leveled, turn that house into a concrete lot. They wanted to concrete this whole thing over, and now Brian Kohberger, stuck in jail, bored, unhappy with his surroundings, unhappy with the choices, is now going to torment them once again. Bit by bit, I believe he's going to start revealing things.
Thanks for watching this clip.
Bit by bit. Bit by bit. Jeez, wow. I mean, bit by bit. Wow. I disagree with it because for however many years it was, November 2022, so July 2025, almost 3 years, Brian Kohberger and his attorneys maintained his innocence. Never wavering. Ann Taylor says in June that I just got hit with another dump of discovery, blah, blah, blah. There's no way that we need a continuation. Hippler says no. And also with like the dateline, she put in that 30 pages. Or remove the death penalty. Okay, that way I don't have to deal with any of this mitigating crap. Or remove the death penalty. And, he said no. And then 2 weeks later, Ann Taylor just miraculously went through all the discovery because she also had to answer questions from Hippler. He asked her, were you able to go through all the discovery? And she said, yes. What? So was she lying 2 weeks ago, or was she lying at the change of plea? So I think when Brian Kohberger comes and says that she lied to me, she knew that I've always maintained my innocence. I was maintaining it while I was signing that piece of paper, okay? And she's over here telling me that she cannot effectively represent me, blah, blah, blah. Whatever the hell he's going to say, how can you say that that's not accurate? When Ann Taylor herself said this stuff to her, to Hippler, within a 2-week period. And then you add on the fact of the matter is that I got my experts out here freaking supply. I've never even seen the stuff that he's even talking about. Cyray, Brent Turvey, he's out here. I never saw these reports. Then there's stuff that wasn't tested, like all of this shit. And she told me that she exhausted everything and that, don't you think, he's always maintained his innocence. So him claiming that Ann Taylor, dude, lawyers tell you to lie all the time. I'm sorry, but they do. When you take a plea deal and you plead to something that's not even, that you didn't do anything. But I'm not going to plead to disorderly conduct. I didn't fucking do anything. I didn't do this. I know, but just do this because, like, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. What? It happens every fucking day. You don't know what's going to happen. The jury can come back and do whatever and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, I just, people that don't get it for me, it's, dude was lied to. Dude had ineffective assistance of counsel. Ann Taylor didn't go out there and get any criminal researchers to go through the shit, sorts of stuff, go through this, whatever. She has her own experts fighting each other. Okay. Then they come out and they're writing books. They're saying I'm guilty. The one guy thought I was guilty before he even took my case. Now he used material that he was in an NDA for, and an NDA with, and he used material, and he's supposedly made some maps up and gave it to, I guess, the family of one of the victims. I've never seen that shit myself. I have no idea what he's talking about. All of this stuff is going on. And the one person who's supposed to have due process, like it or not, is the defendant. You're innocent until proven guilty. And no offense, but Brian Kohberger wasn't proven guilty. He took a plea deal. And that's what they do in fucking Idaho, man. I don't know. I just think that, hey, he wants a trial. Family say, let's go. Have a trial, get it over with. How royally screwed up would all of it be? Cyray, basically, what, you're gone. What, you guys think he's going to flip and he's going to testify for the prosecution? No. Cyray's already labeled, or the judge labeled him a conspiracy theorist. I just don't even, how is this a just process? This is the most craziest shit I've ever seen. And nobody can talk about it objectively. They all want to say, wah, he's crying over here and he just doesn't like how prison was and blah, blah. I'm like thinking to myself, I don't give a shit if that's what you think. That can be great. You can think that. Fuck, that could even be true. But that doesn't change what the hell occurred in this case. What wrong with you? That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. That truly does not matter. It's irrelevant. What matters is the guy is telling the world that he's never, his own lawyer knows that he has never given up. He's always maintained his innocence. I have a question. When Ann Taylor's asked that question, what is she going to do? Lie? Is she going to lie? Ann Taylor, isn't it true? Brian Kohberger never confessed to you? Yep. What's she going to say? No, he confessed. Ann Taylor, isn't it true that you knew that he was maintaining his innocence and he kept on saying, I didn't do this though. I didn't do this. Yeah. So why are you telling him, so he should be, you told him to, your recommendation was to lie to the courts? I just, this cannot be the way. This is not due process. And then what, so the families can sit here every year for the next however many years? And it can just be what? I mean, think about this, Scott Peterson, the Scott Peterson case. That actually went to trial. The media torched that man. The dude didn't have a chance. The Modesto police, one of the most corrupt police forces out here, lied about what day the burglary was. Why would you need to do that? Unreal. But if even Scott Peterson's getting all this, you know, what do you think this case is? It never had a trial, and you think this is going away? It's never going away. How do you get 16 experts to fill out reports the way that they did? And I don't know, Cy coming out and saying what he did, it basically tarnishes the name expert for me. The way that he thinks that it, you know, I can just be fanciful with my words. And is that how you've been testifying as a prosecution witness for all these years? That we need to really dissect your reports and see what it is that you're not saying. Let's attack that. Because what you're not saying, it seems like there'd be stuff there. So let's go for that. I'm thoroughly disgusted and I'm thoroughly disappointed. But I'm proud as fuck of this channel and everything that we stand for. Because asking questions isn't a crime. Asking relevant questions is important. And not being a fucking yes man or a yes woman. What this channel has uncovered in this case points to potentially what Cy is saying, that it would include cops, their phones. Why didn't they ever put police officers' DNAs? Why didn't they ever get everybody's DNA, did they? And use it as for elimination purposes, since they trampled the fuck all over that crime scene? You would think that everybody that was around there would be, you know, submitting their DNA so that it could be used as elimination. Why didn't that happen in this case? You guys know at the Delphi crime scene, a police officer's, an Indiana State police officer's DNA was inside that crime scene. And the reason they didn't catch it the first time is because for some reason, when he got actually hired for Indiana State Police, they didn't process his paperwork correctly, and his DNA was never entered into the system. That was at the beginning. Then years would pass by, and then they did like another round of like looking at stuff, and they got a hit on DNA that was in the crime scene, and it came back to Indiana State Police. Don't you think that the defense would have used that in trial? They didn't. Don't know how that happens. So I feel for the families. I'm curious, the Chapins, Xana's family, Maddie's family. I wonder what they're feeling and thinking. Xana's mom, Xana's dad, her sister, the Chapins, like the triplets, Maddie's mom and dad, and her grandparents, her grandma. Oh, by the way, that Netflix, total fucking flop. I cannot believe how bad it is. It's awful. It's absolutely awful. So Netflix will be needing to bounce back after that. Bunny, thank you so much. Good to 5 Truth and Transparency memberships. Excellent work, Lana. Your recall on the details of this case is amazing. Syrie getting exposed in real time. I don't know what the hell's going on. I just think that after Brian Kohberger announced what he did on Monday, I think that should have been pulled. That's just my opinion. It looks awful. The appearance of it. And then he goes out there and says that everybody was ineffective. Put him on the fucking witness list, Brian. I don't know. Do you think Cy is dirty or just not the expert he claims to be? I don't think Cy's dirty. I think that Cyrie's trying to save his fucking career. That's what I think. Do you think the comments made post guilty plea by Bill Thompson could impact the judge's decision about the lack of evidence? Do you think that the leak in the case can help Brian Kohberger? I think that his 16 expert reports, every single expert that issued a report on Brian Kohberger's behalf, they blow out of the water what the state has. And then there was a silver 2013 Hyundai Elantra driving around the night of the murders, and it was kept out. It was a locked report. We just got it yesterday. And 4 girls in it, sorority girls, getting high. The plainclothes officers were by them at 1:43 to 2:25. They have no idea, what they did or where that car went afterwards. We don't even know whose car that was because they didn't even do it properly to see who was the registered owner of that vehicle. They tried to tell us that there was no body cam. We're dealing with them this morning, so I should have that body worn camera for the 2013 silver Hyundai Elantra. Heather says, Cy is only thinking about Cy now, which is unethical in my opinion. Too bad BK does not have money to sue for breaking privilege. That was going to be my next question, is if I was to ask Ann Taylor a question, I'm like, when is she going to make a move with any of these NDAs? Like, why would there be NDAs? Lana, this is a massive change in Cy to what he wrote. How can anyone believe a word? I'm telling you how it's being swung, though. He stands by everything that he wrote in his report because It's what he was asked to do in this case. You would have to ask him everything that you said on Jesse Weber. Where can I find that in your report? Where can I find those statements in your report? And then where can I find the data? I want to see this overlaying 6 months work. Let me see the 6 months of the data that you comprise, because I can promise you were not showing that to the jury. Okay? And I see what he's saying in his report. He dropped a couple little lines in his report where it's like, if somebody actually looked through this and knew what to look for, they would go to a specific line, and I think it would open up the door to talk about what he just talked about. And if that's the case, I am now more confident than ever that Ann Taylor was not using him. Because that would have been disclosed. And remember, he wrote this report back in January of 2025. He gets labeled a conspiracy theorist like I said, Tom Slavinsky did the work. He was just the peer reviewer, okay? Tom Slavinsky had these slides. I don't think that she was using him in trial. That's where my headspace is. I think that it would be, you could potentially use him. I don't know if maybe he was listed as like a rebuttal. If you use Cyree as like a rebuttal to Nick Balance, but I don't know. I wouldn't have him anywhere near. I wouldn't question him at all. I would have zero confidence. I would have no idea what he'd be saying up there. And then I would be so nervous of like, out of the 51 pages, we know Bill Thompson sucks. We know Ashley Jennings is horrible. I mean, if Bill sucks, she's double suck. And those two, there's no way that I give them any credit to find that one sentence. So, yeah. I'd be nervous that it would leak out somehow and they would get tipped off on how to question him or something. You know what I mean? The slathering over Cyree on this channel is unbelievable. Huh? What? Take the link. Take the link. Mocking Donna, one of the best defense attorneys in the world, yet slobbering over the fucking nobody. Cyree, what? And he is a nobody, what? Take the link. Here. Here you go. Copy. Take the link. Lana, do you think AT got him to take the plea deal over her not getting the okay for more time? Yeah, and I think that she should just admit that. Absolutely. Which is in and of itself ineffective assistance of counsel, right? I mean, like, I had to tell him to do this because I couldn't represent him. Like, I think this would be a very interesting conversation. I think that this should go in front of a judge, and however things played out for the past week or a couple days before the plea, I think that all needs to be, I think everybody and their mother, what they are saying, Brian filing that, everybody has the same, it's like Did you guys get your memo? Here's what you need to say. Everybody is saying the same thing. There is not a single person out here that's saying, wait a second, guys. He was claiming his innocence for 3 years. His defense team is saying that they're claiming it for him because they believe that he's innocent and he was framed. That's what, like, that's where it's been. And then it wasn't until they started to do the mitigation stuff that Brian Kohberger wasn't participating as much. Who the hell would? Who the hell would participate in that? Who the hell would? It doesn't make sense logically. Brian Kohberger claiming what he's claiming after his own expert comes out and claims what it claimed in a book. Why aren't people putting the dots together here? This isn't out of left field, okay? This was a rush to plea out of nowhere when you spent $8 million. $8 million. And I think that we have a right to know every single dollar and where it was spent. Because it makes no sense. No sense. So I think there's a little bit of weight in the fact that he wrote that and is claiming his innocence because that's all he's ever claimed for 3 years. And then Ann Taylor's over here talking in circles and it was awful. She was ineffective in Ada County. I mean, when you want to talk about and analyze like a sporting event, she showed up like the freshman team every single day in Ada County. She showed up like the starting, USC quarterback in Latah. So, and you'd have to ask yourself, what evidence-wise changed? And what changed? If anything, in January, she's getting all of her expert reports that are just like bomb. What evidence, what did you learn from January of 2025 to June of 2025 that would have you feeling this way? And the answer to that is we'll find out. Why would you be telling your client who's telling you that he's innocent and he doesn't want to take a plea deal? Why are you talking him into this to the point that he's calling it coercion, to the point that you're bringing in his family, to the point that you're touring the death row facility? I mean, it's wild. So I don't know. I think there's a way to throw the judge under the bus. That's what I think. I think if Ann Taylor throws the judge, if those three lawyers throw the judge under the bus and make it known that we had to try to save his life. And yeah, that I would be putting, we asked for a continuation. This is what happened. This is what happened. How can I properly represent him? I mean, but yeah, you told me that you went through all the discovery. Do you guys think that Ann Taylor was being truthful? Because either she was being truthful then, which means she was lying 2 weeks ago. So which is it? Either way, I believe that Ann Taylor lied. She either lied to the judge to get a continuation with the discovery stuff, or she lied at the plea. And I think that's what Turvey's talking about. So that person didn't want to take the link? That's what I thought. Now, in the Nolan Wells case, I just want to play and talk about something which is again, mind-blowing to me that these mainstream media people do not do research, platform whoever, say whatever, and it's like then 18 hours later or 2 days later, it's like, okay, I'm just gonna say this. It's like and everybody watches it. Like 1 million people saw the Nancy Grace bullshit on playing the audio in Nolan Wells's boat with the Sea Tour distress call. And then you have people that are like, hey, I did this and this is what it's saying. It's like, what? Lana, listen to this. No, it doesn't say that at all. No, Nolan, no. No. So, News Nation came out. I'll play this one. Pathetic.
Tonight we've got 3 major
heavily with friends on Horn Island before he disappeared. That's according to a document with preliminary information from the Mississippi Department. So we want to play you clips from both versions. First, here's the original recording.
Detail assistance, Vicky speaking. How can I help you?
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can you all please come? We have a membership.
All right, of course. How far is the water coming up, sir? Can you give me a description?
Okay, now here's TMZ's enhanced version of that same recording.
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can you all please come? We have a membership. Shut the fuck up!
So what exactly did we just hear? I want to go to Robert Fried, digital forensics expert who spent more than 2 decades analyzing electronic evidence. He's the executive vice president of forensics and chief investigative officer at Page One. He's trained law enforcement agencies across the country in digital forensics and computer crime investigations. Thanks for taking the time. I want to take this step by step.
Absolutely.
So first of all, you analyzed both versions. What were you able or not able to determine?
Well, you can obviously look at just the totality.
Okay. First question. Where was any of this? Where was any of this in the Brian Kohberger case with the 1112 camera footage that you can hear all this audio? Did any of them take time to do any of this? No. You want to know why? Because mainstream media has taken no time whatsoever to get any answers. All these answers that they say that they don't have any answers. Because they didn't go and get any of the public records. They didn't pay $1, not $1 for dick. Where was someone like this to analyze that video? Moving on, I'm glad that they put this person here.
Of both versions and see that there's a time difference right away. One's 8.5 minutes, the other one's 8 minutes and 50 seconds. And what we actually did was we extracted or preserved the videos from the specific websites, the TMZ as well as the WAFB website. And then what we were able to do there is take a digital fingerprint MD5 hash value of those 2 videos. They were obviously different, which means that they have different content. And then, we went in and we looked at the transcript that was able to be gleaned from both versions. And
so now
lots of differences there.
This goes to the main question. In those transcripts, from your analysis, does anyone say, is he dead? Check his chest. Nolan, wake up. Anything like that?
No. It's very distorted. Even if you hear it from the original to even the audio enhancement, it's still very difficult for some of the software that we use to even pick up those types of words. and there was nothing like that close to it in the transcriptions that we saw.
Is there a danger in someone telling you what to listen for? Do you go in with the preconceived, I don't know if the word is bias, but you're going in to look
my mind was automatically going to that as well. Am I going to hear those things like that? So my perception is, okay, let me hear what everybody's talking about, and let's go down to, the specifics of it from a forensic analysis perspective. Can I actually transcribe those specific words as well from what's being provided to me?
So what do you think law enforcement's doing with this audio? If you were part of the investigation, what would you do with this audio now?
I would want to go and make sure that I have the data from the original source. What generated this audio recording? Let me go to the source. Because if I'm looking at different variations, you can even see, Jesse, that there's redactions in those audio recordings. There's account numbers that were shared. There were phone numbers. All that stuff is different than the original. I want to see the original, and I want to look at the metadata of the original.
So in other words, just real quick, if somebody said their phone number, there could be something in the background. That could be interesting. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Robert Freed, thanks so much.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download.
Okay, now, I knew it was trash to begin with, so everyone was like, Lana, what do you think about that recording? I don't think that that's saying anything that these fucking idiots put out there. That's what I think, and that's all I have to say about that. Now, what I'm really interested in is there's potentially 3 or 4 people out there that Officer Tatum is waiting for them to come forward. He has their names. One of them, I believe, is like a different female that was with Nolan seen struggling in the water, like later, like 6, maybe a little bit before 6. Then there's talks of that somebody was around that area throughout the day who was passing out cocaine, and that Nolan partook in the cocaine, and that his toxicology is going to show that he has cocaine in his system. Well, curious of where and how he was blowing coke when it's so windy. Okay, you'd have to do that on a boat, right? Think about it. Maybe down underneath. So curious about that. Curious of who this girl is, this different girl, and that Nolan potentially got into a verbal altercation right before 6. Again, I'm going to show you where I'm getting my information from, and it's the same guy that's been doing the interviews, and I think he's, for what I see, and I had no reason, he makes it known when stuff's not vetted yet, things like that. Where is, I think this one's it.
After this call had occurred and was using cocaine during this period of time. This person said it was 150%. It's reliable sources right in this area, because this is a video of what it looked like. And Nolan is in this video. We'll put the video up. Nolan is in this video. Put it on the screen. Pause it right here. So this was sent to us as well. I'm sure this video is circulating anyway. If you look at the boy in the blue shorts, right where his butt is at.
All right. Teresa's been following this case. What's up, T?
Hi, guys.
What's up?
Major echo.
What'd you say?
It's not a major echo.
Oh, yeah. My stuff's all messed up. I am still working on my equipment stuff, so is it still echoing?
Hello.
You sound good.
Don't we have an echo? I sound good twice.
Is it better now?
Hello, hello. Yeah, no, I'm good.
So what do you think? Where are we at? I was going to play a little bit of this. What do you think?
So this is the one from last night. So this little video is, I believe, so the boat that we're seeing right here is the Triton that the boys are on, or that these boys are on, and the boat that I think is filming is the Palm Beach.
Okay, so do you see how many people are all over? Like, what time do you think this is at?
This video?
Yeah.
Probably
You move
around
over
3.
You think it's at 3? Okay.
Okay, well, I guess I'm going to play devil's advocate here. If you believe Warren saying the Palm Beach left earlier, right? And then Officer Tatum says that he was told that at this point in the video, this is when the boat, the Triton, starts having issues. So you have
the edge of the boat is his butt.
The Palm Beach has to leave still, but the boys haven't left on the Triton because they don't leave until 4:31.
Yeah. Okay, so here, I'm going to play a little bit of this. Hold on.
And that's actually Nolan's standing in the water right there. I'm going to have the team play the video and pan it so you can see what environment they were in. Similarly, when the boat began to sink. Roll the clip. Pause. Do you guys see how many people are out there? Play it again. Do you guys see how many boats are out there?
More importantly, do you see how calm the water is?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so you're going nuts about the fact that Brian Kohberger has been appointed a public defender. It is not public yet who it is. It's just on his case that he has been appointed a public defender. So probably by the end of the day, we'll know who it is, but just a heads up because I want to make sure that you know that.
Thank you. Yes, I did know that, and I'm just waiting to hear the person that it ends up being. And if it's Dana Bose, I'm going to fucking die. Do you think this would be somebody out of Boise? That's what I would think out of Ada, right?
That's what I would agree with that.
All right, so what do you think about what he is claiming here? This new little clip he talks about that he has like 3 or 4 people that he knows their names. He knows what is being alleged. I'm going to play a little clip of this, and then I want to know your thoughts.
Within all these people, I think is a disservice. We need to get to the information that I heard. We'll get to Miss Rachel and her silly self, and Judge Mathis. We'll get to Judge Mathis. But what I was told, and you guys, please take in consideration that it's reliable sources. However, the only way to prove the truth in this is if I see it with my own eyes, if the law enforcement have the investigation of this, and also when the toxicology results come out. But people are messaging me and telling me that there is heavy drinking and there's cocaine involved. And there's a particular person whom I know this person's name. I'm not going to disclose it. I'm going to go to the police first, and then I will disclose it if it doesn't interfere in the investigation. But this person allegedly was offering people cocaine, and someone close to Nolan, one of his friends, told me that this person was offered cocaine and rejected it from this person. And I was also told, and this person told me that it's over 100% chance that Nolan was using cocaine during this period of time. This person said it was 150% sure that when the toxicology comes back, that Nolan will have cocaine in his system. Now, again, taking into consideration, this is somebody telling me this. I'm not saying it's me. I'm not saying it. I'm not able to verify it. But from the sources that I'm getting it from has been consistent, verifiable sources thus far, and hadn't been wrong about nothing. So there's a possibility that there's a person that Nolan may have been around or interacted with that is giving cocaine to the people on this island, that Nolan may have taken the cocaine. And then also, I received a DM from someone DMing another person. Now, I'm trying to leave these names out because I want to not mess this investigation up. I think law enforcement already have this. That alluded to the fact that, and I messaged this person because I want to talk directly to the person that I saw the DM from. And we haven't talked to this person yet. But the person said in the DM to another kid that is associated, not any of the kids that I interviewed to talk to, but that could be associated to some degree, that knew Nolan, that this person wrote a message saying, me and my husband saw you arguing with Nolan, and to the effect of, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison.
Okay, who do you think these two people are, the husband and wife?
Well, so there's this group of 3 women that are out there, right there in that general vicinity, and there's one that stays until 7:30, and then she goes on social media and says that when she left at 7:30, there's nobody there, like he's not there, that he's gone. So the other 2 women, one being Ivy, who was on the boat with Tristan, so we know they left. And then there's the other one, we don't know what time she left. She's the one who records the video where you can hear the altercation. But I mean, obviously there's tons of couples out there that know of right off the bat. We also know Ray is out there, but he says he leaves at 3:30. And I don't think he has a wife, but I'm not sure.
Now, the person did not say they saw a physical altercation. The person did not say what time they saw Nolan and this other person getting into an argument. Now, this is after their boat left. This may be somewhere around a little bit before 6, right around 6 or a little bit before 6 p.m. Now, according to the autopsy, which I interviewed a medical examiner about this, there is no evidence of blunt force trauma or evidence that Nolan got into a physical altercation. So I'm putting all this stuff together, what people are sending me and all that, and I'm trying to find a neutral point to share with you. What I'm thinking at this point, with all that has been said, is that somebody knows exactly what happened to Nolan, or they saw him right before he died. I am not convinced that Nolan was just out there and drowned. It could be. That could have happened. But
What do you think about that?
What part?
Do you think that he drowned? Well, I mean, like, do you think that he, correct?
Honestly, I would say my theory up until probably the last few days was that when the boys leave on the Triton and they're out, they're not that far out where you can't see shore. And I was kind of thinking, like, does he see like his boys are in trouble and he's like, no shit, like I actually do need to get on the boat with them to go help them because they're like stuck right there, because that's where I can show you.
But like, if this one girl is saying how she was, well, based on what he's saying, is that this would have been like around right before 6 o'clock. So like
right. So that's the whole thing is like, now that we hear that there's at least 2 people, we know of at least 2 people, possibly a third, that saw Nolan at 6 o'clock. Like, so, or even a little bit after. So then the question is that then, so my whole original theory was like, maybe he did try to like swim out to his boys and was like, I'm gonna go help you guys, and I shouldn't have just stayed here with some chick while you guys are out there like actually stuck. But now, like, that doesn't make any sense, because we know that they leave, that even the area where the tow was, they leave there as soon as they're tied up. So I honestly don't know. It's probably, I was saying like last time in my life, like that's why I can't let it go, because none of it makes any sense. Now, to be clear, I am not somebody who believes the Warrens and the Wyatts and that whole crew had anything to do with anything. I think they bounced and they left him there, and I think they're going to have to live with the fact that they left him there for the rest of their lives, and that's going to be a huge weight for them. But I don't think they did anything nefarious to him. But it seems like it's like you have to either believe that those boys did something or that it's accidental drowning. And I'm like stuck in the middle there, like in a gray area. Like we have no idea what happened. We've got this dude that gets in a fight with Trayston, and the witnesses say that he punches Trayston and holds him under the water until other boys pull him off. Like, so why is that not something? Why do we not care who this kid is? So then that's when Carter, Warren's brother, and another kid go up and end up fighting this unknown person. We don't know when this unknown person leaves. Why isn't everybody like trying to figure out who the hell that person is that's out there holding people under the ground or under the water?
Absolutely. I was just going to say something about that. Like, is there any chance that this person, if they were still around, saw Nolan and thought it was the guy that he originally got in a fight with?
I don't know if they look quite the same, but I mean, it was intoxicated. He probably would know that they're boys, is what I'm thinking. And like, go up, like, where's your boy at? Like, what happened? Where's your boy? Who knows? I have no idea. But I'm just saying, like, there's so much in between this accidental drowning and this group of boys killed Nolan. Like, there's so much in between there that people just are like acting doesn't, like, not just people, some people are acting like doesn't exist. And like, that's where I'm stuck in, is this gray area in the middle.
Yes, and I've already think I've determined that the boys didn't have anything to do with it. They went in, and he stays out, and the only reason being is because of this, he's still out there type of thing, and people saw him, and he wasn't in some. Now, what he's about to say though is, did you hear when he talks about the girl? He's in the water with a girl, and they look like they're struggling. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I don't know about. I don't really know if the struggling is quite the right terminology there.
Well, he was saying struggling, and then he said, like, well, first they were being like intimate, and so my question is do we think that that's Katie, or is that another different person?
I would assume at this point that it's Katie. He didn't stay to hook up with another chick. He stayed to get her. I mean, let's be real. He was putting a lot of time and energy into that.
Okay, wow. So that's interesting.
I don't think he was like, screw it. Like, she left. Let me go find somebody else. I mean, he could have. I mean, there could have been somebody there that he's already hooked up with. But he was putting a lot of time and energy into that.
Okay. So, well, what do you think about the fact that the one dude's what do you think about all this stuff with the phones, like the Snapchat stuff? Like, they've had to have already gone through this. Why is there no announcement coming out about the Snapchat shit?
As in it being deleted, or as in?
Yeah, I mean, it takes like no time to if they're talking about doing Cellbrite, if they're talking, this doesn't take, like, these results on the phone and back.
So, yesterday, the estate of Nolan Wells filed to get filed preservation orders for Snapchat, Meta platforms, TikTok, Snapchat, and Life 360. So we have preservation orders for all of them. The estate of Nolan Wells also filed a preservation order on the Judge Ashley Cole, which is Warren's stepmom, which I found very interesting that she would get one.
They did one to her?
They did one to Ashley Cole, yeah.
For her device?
For her device, yeah. For all of her communications, yeah.
Okay, what about any tower dumps?
Not that I've seen. that would be, and the cops would be the ones doing that. So I don't think that, we'll probably see a lot more preservation orders coming out from his estate soon. And then we also have the boy's attorney, or one of the boy's attorneys, going online yesterday, asking and requesting anybody who is saying that the boys on the boat killed Nolan to send him the information, because the boys' attorneys are going to be filing defamation lawsuits.
Oh, snap.
YouTubers, TikTokers, social media, just people that have any say. So yeah, so they're going to be filing defamation lawsuits to social media.
Hell yeah.
Make sure you use the word allegedly.
Well, yeah, fuck, whoever, these idiots, such idiots. I mean, what the hell's wrong with these people? I mean, I think that they should.
Well, I mean, because I've been scouring like the social medias to try to get any like information. I don't know of another case where I guess that's not true. That's not true. There's a couple other cases I can think of, but this one's really bad. I think more with the technology behind it, with like AI, and this is probably the case I've seen touched the most by AI personally. But when I'm scouring these, like, people are ruthless. It's not like a person just chatting about true crime, like, hey, I'm kind of leaning this way right now, or I'm thinking that this might be what happened. It's like people who are like, those boys are demons and they need to be punished. And I mean, it's like straight psycho stuff. I'm like, holy crap. Like, they're like, that's somebody put out, like, here's all the boys' names, like first, middle, and last. Here's every social media that they have. And then it's like, people are like, why are you guys taking down your social media? And it's like, because people are fucking crazy, dude. Like, they're like, share this far and wide, and let's get them. Let's get those white boys. And it's like, what? We don't even know what the hell. The autopsy results were even out yet. This is like July 7th. And people are going crazy, just spreading anything they possibly can.
So, first of all, it's wild. Obviously, you know how I feel about that shit. There's no reason, like, I mean, go get the proof. You know what I'm saying? Like, go do some FOIA requests, get your shit going. How about this? I was gonna show you did you ever look through those reports? Maybe I didn't even get to send them to you. The boat, did you know that there was only one of the boats that the GPS coordinates were done? It was on the Triton, but it wasn't on the Bart's boat. Did you see how they messed up and they did the GPS coordinates? I was going to show you something that I thought I found was pretty interesting. Have you gone through any of those reports that were made up from the...
Well, you didn't send them to me. No. But I have gone through some of the reports that have been posted online. And I did see that they went and they took both of the GPS units to go download them on the 8th, but I'm curious on what you're saying.
Let me go ahead and pull this up for you to see. Let me see if I can even do this. 1 second. It was, hold on. Well, I'm waiting to look for this. I'm going to play this first.
I'm more convinced now than ever based on what people have been telling me and DMs that I've been seeing, people that have been verified sources, that has to be something with this cocaine. There has to be something with Nolan and a girl. And there has to be something with Nolan potentially being in either altercation with somebody, which would lead me to believe that person saw Nolan last. And that this other person that's giving people cocaine. So this person giving people cocaine, a girl, Nolan, and another person that he may have been in an argument with, to me, are people that need to be investigated. And I can say more, but I'm trying not to get anything messed up in this case, because I want justice for Nolan, and I want the boys that weren't involved in this to not get caught up in stupidity. So just so you guys know, I know the names of the cocaine person. I believe I know who the girl is. And I know the name of the person that may have been in the argument with Nolan. And there's nothing conclusive that anybody's telling me where there was violence that occurred. But that does not mean that the violence is ruled out. That does not mean that something could have happened in the water. Another report came to me of someone saying that they saw Nolan with a girl, being intimate in the water to the point where it caught their attention. And they believed that they saw Nolan and this girl struggling in the water, not necessarily drowning, but struggling. Like it was obvious enough that the person was concerned when they saw Nolan in the water and that he was with this girl. And that the
Okay, I'm going to bring in Hector here. This is the report that I was referring to. I'll make sure I send you these. Okay, so okay. So if you look at this is saying on July 8th at approximately, whatever that is, 1:41, they go and they get, ooh, so I don't know why that was doing that. Shay M. Smith was assigned to download the data of the vessels. So this is the one boat and this is the other boat. So one of it's Bart's and then the other one was the one that they were sinking on, okay? Yes. So I wanted to show you that when they were doing this report, when they went and got hit, like the one that got pulled out of the water, okay, that's right here. That's all of this. See this data down here? The vessel departs. And so that's the BU one, the 88 BU one. But the one right here, which is the CB one, when they wrote one of these reports, it's okay. I'm going to read this, which is on July 8th, 2026 at approximately 1:41, the Jackson County captain requested GPS file download assistance from MDMR Captain Freeman as part of the search and rescue for Nolan Wells at Horn Island. Officer Shay Smith was assigned to download the data contained on the vessel right here, this CB. And so both of them. Now the Bart kid, they had meet with him and he was located at Ocean Springs, whatever his address was. His grandfather was there, his mom was there. So he provided his driver's license, which I have a picture of that. I have a picture of the boat registration. Now, this kid signed the permission slip, the Bart kid, and escorted Smith down to the pier. Now, the vessel, CB, was in a boat lift on the north side of the residence. The vessel contained a pair of Garmin GPS map chart plotters and wired for, all this shit. Inserted the 32 GB card into the unit and followed to prompt the copy data to the memory. So they make this. And then on July 8th at approximately 5, Shay then met with Jerry. So this is then Wyatt's grandfather. So that was Bart. And they had to go to Bart. Bart's was in the water still. You get what I'm saying? Like on the dry lift. Now, Wyatt's boat, in the interview that what's his name did, I don't know if you got this mixed up, but in the interview that Warren did, he said that he went the next day when they went looking, for Nolan, that they used Wyatt's boat because Wyatt's boat was still in the water. Do you think that they're referring to the Palm Beach one?
I'm assuming they are, yes.
Okay, so then... Okay. So then on this, when they continue to write this up, and they get all the information from him, they get it, they download it all. It's saying that on July 9th, then they made a working copy of the files, and Smith used the government home port to open the files for each containing the following. And so there's both of them. Then on July 10th, they create this. So the GPX file ingested into Google Earth to develop PowerPoint slides with the date, times, and routes of vessel BU displayed over satellite imagery. And BU is the same, like that's the one that's, this is the only data that we have. And that would be from Wyatt's boat. Where is Bart's boat? Because when you're going through this, then the next one that they do, guess what they end up doing here? See, this one says, same thing, BU. And it's like, they made a report and they just duplicated, instead of going for the CB one, and that should be out there. So I wanted to show you that and tell you about this big issue that I'm seeing, which is we've never now seen the GPS coordinates of Bart's boat. So we don't actually physically know who's towing Wyatt's boat, because we don't have, and nor did they properly, that they messed up because they wrote a report twice for the same information when they were supposed to be doing one for Wyatt and one for Bart. That's what I wanted to get out to people. Go ahead. What do you think?
Well, I'm thinking that we could probably just request the documents that actually have the data from, the 295CB. It says it contains the waypoints, but it doesn't have the tracks and the routes, which I thought was interesting too, because it does, on that other report, it does, I don't know if it's this one, it states that it has all these things, waypoints and so on and so forth, but it doesn't actually track it there. But they have to have, they have to have that logged. It's probably just not on their police report. So I think it should be pretty simple to just request it and match it up. I do have the photo from a third-party boat that is allegedly the Triton and the Tide Line, Bart's boat, side by side. I sent it to you.
Oh, you have a new.
Yeah. Hold on.
My phone's dead. If you want to send it to my email.
I'm just gonna share my screen. So this one on the bottom right is allegedly the Triton, and then Bart's Tide Line is right next to it. Obviously, it's extremely blurry, as everything else, because when it comes to true crime, people can't take clear photos. But after Officer Tatum put out, his little clip of the boat being tied up, there are some similarity. Obviously, we know it's the boat. We can tell based on some of the things that are on the boat. You can see that it's a Yamaha motor. It's got the same exact things. We know that Bart's boat is the black Tide Line based on the documents from the FOIA requests. And then we have some similarities here with that, like the guy in the aqua shorts. Is it 100%? But who knows?
Yeah, it looks good.
It does. It looks pretty good. It does. It's definitely not AI. It's a real photo taken from a third boat. And then obviously probably zoomed in, so the quality is shit.
Yeah. So what time do we think this was taken?
That's like legit the question on every picture I have everywhere. Like nobody ever wants to put out like the metadata that goes along and says this was actually at this time. Even with the little mini video that Officer Tatum put out of them tying up the Triton, it's like, well, what time was that at? And it's like, well, he's just like, yeah, it was after the call. And it's like, how do you know that? And if you have that information, just put it out with the rest of the shit. And if you don't have that information, then we don't know that that's after the call. Because if you look, there's the kid right here is on the phone. Who's he on the phone with? Grandpa? Maybe. Is he on the phone with Cito? Maybe.
Okay, so I have a question for you. Have you heard this name? I don't know how. Okay. On July 5th, 2026, after what Officer Tatum said, I went back and looked at the police or the incident reports, and I found one that somebody gave up this chick's name. And it was because Officer Strickland reported to the residents of it's Naquin.
Oh, I saw that in there. I saw that in the reports.
And it was initially reported to be on Horn Island with the group of people associated with Nolan Wells. When interviewed, this person stated that she had already spoken with Jackson County Sheriff's Department investigators and stated that she was not on Horn Island, but in fact was on Petty Boy's Island, or Petty Boy, whatever, with a different group of friends. She said that she knew Wells but had not seen him or spoke with him in over a year. Do you think that this is at all potentially to do with the girl in the water with Nolan and that she could be lying?
I don't think she's lying. So also in those reports, it shows that they go to talk to two other people that they don't get to talk to. I originally assumed just reading it that it was a dude, but when I look it up, this one's a girl. So I have not confirmed it, but it said like they go to talk to Jacob. I mean, nobody blocks these names out on the document, so I'm not going to block them either. Jacob Woods and Drew Johnson. So like you assume like those are two dudes, right? Well, when I'm looking up Drew Johnson, that's a girl. Now I'm not going to say 100% that it is, but I'm just saying like that's the only one I found from Ocean Springs. And then we know that one of the girls on the boat is the call that's recorded that I told you that we don't know what her name is. We don't know who actually recorded it. I just have the call. And I think you played it on your channel. That girl is one of these girls that's on the boat. The one that says we're going to go to Ava's house. We were going to Ava's house.
Okay, so I have a question. I know exactly who you're talking about. And then with the knock-in and stuff, well, then why did they do a knock-in talk at the Biloxi Hospital? Did you see that?
No, just to see if he was there. If anybody reported like a John Doe 18-year-old black boy. You know what I mean? Like, and they're like, nope, we don't have anybody here like that.
Gotcha.
So have you seen this other part where everybody's like freaking out about Bart? Hold on, let me see if I can get to it. About how Bart said he wasn't there for a year. Have you seen this yet? So Bart.
No.
Okay, so people are like real. So since this call, and you were talking about the call I think before I came up here, the Cito call, and then people are taking it and they're like running with it, and there's like audio engineers that are trying to get rid of all the noise, and then they're saying that you can hear them screaming like, "Oh my God, Nolan, he's dead!" You know, these things in the background, and then you just played the audio guy that was on I don't remember what channel. No, I don't remember what it was. But you just played the audio guy who's like, yeah, we don't hear any of that. So since on that call, you can hear them saying like, Bart, like make sure like you pull the plug so that they can start to tow and get the water out. Like as they take up speed, the water will come out of the boat if he pulls the plug. Well, everybody's like, but Bart said that he hadn't been here in a year. So like, how was Bart there? So now Bart's lying, and Bart's probably the one that killed Nolan. And then that whole theory is like completely taken off.
You're shitting me.
No, oh no, that's like a big thing right now. It's like, Bart, you better know, like, everybody's coming for you now, Bart. Because he made this comment on Instagram. He says, like, hey, I just want you to know, like, Nolan was a friend of mine. I want justice and the facts to come out. I just want you to know that I live in Wyoming and have not been in Pass Christian for over a year. I grieve for Nolan and want the same as everyone else. Thank you for your support. And so people are like, he's saying he hasn't been here in a year. So he's actually a punter on the Wyoming football team. He's 21, so he's older than Nolan. But Pass Christian is not Ocean Springs. So Pass Christian is allegedly the pool party that everybody at the beginning of this case said, oh my gosh, that's Nolan in the water. And then Warren's like, yeah, that is Nolan. My arm is around him. That's actually from June 27th, the weekend before, is in Pass Christian. The comment that he's referring to is about the pool party because there was a video that people were saying they could see. Hold on, sorry. That they were saying they could see Bart in the picture at the pool. This Bart. And Bart's like, yeah, no, dude, like, I have not been to Pass Christian in a year. But that's not Ocean Springs. Or Horn Island.
I think everybody was hammered. The other thing, what do you think about, have you done any follow back up with the people that Hans's son rode out there on?
Oh, are you talking about Lucas? Oh, Lucas, or are we talking about Javon? Javon. No, but there's a weird thing with the phone for Javon that I'm trying to figure out currently.
Same.
So Javon says that his phone was also on the boat with Nolan's. That's what he says in his interview. The adult female on the boat that he was on also said that Javon's phone was on the boat with Nolan, and that when Javon left with them, he did not go back and get his phone. So when they got back to the house, Javon wanted to drive to go pick up his phone, and she didn't want him to drive because he was intoxicated, and she wanted to call his mom and have his mom come pick him up. And he was like, nah, I'm good. Like, my mom knows I drink. Like, it's okay. And so he allegedly, along with another kid, goes to pick up his phone. Well, originally we were told that Tashima and Javon got his phone at like midnight, 12:30 when they went and picked up Nolan's phone, which didn't make any sense because if Javon doesn't have his phone, how does Warren call him to get Christine's number? How does Tashima call him on three-way with Christine to figure out if he knows where Nolan is? So that means that at some point he met up with Wyatt and that group, whether it be at Fort Bayou Dock, whether it be at Jax's house, whether it be at Ava's house, at some point after returning home, he meets up with this group of kids to get his phone back. And guess who's not with this group of kids? Nolan. So he knows Nolan is not with them. Whenever he gets his phone, Nolan is not there. Wherever that may be, Nolan is not there. So this phone call, like, hey, we still don't know, like, Nolan's still not back. Like, that means Javon knows Nolan is doing something else in life. Otherwise, he'd be like, hey, where the hell's Nolan? Where's my boy? That's my best friend, right? That's my boy. Where is he?
But it also doesn't answer my question about Snapchat maps. Like, if you, with the maps, because remember it was like he couldn't look up the maps when he was talking to his mom at like 11 p.m. It was like, how did that all happen? Because you need your, remember, like, they're trying to say he didn't have his phone at 11, right?
Well, originally that's what they were trying to say. And Officer Tatum did an interview. What's that guy's name? And he did it like with the prosecutor, like he was debating the prosecutor, Stephen Smith. What is that? I don't know the channel name, but anyway, he did this, and he goes on there and he's like adamant that Tashima and Javon picked up Javon's phone when they picked up Nolan's. He's like repeatedly saying it, and it's like, I think at this point we can guarantee that's not true. Javon had to get his phone earlier. So then the point becomes, if you listen to some of the details,
Wait. Why do you think he had got it earlier?
Because how does Warren call Javon at 11 to get Christine's number? If Javon doesn't have Javon's phone, how does he call Javon?
How do you know Warren called Javon?
According to Warren and according to his phone records that he gives to Officer Tatum. So, but next part is we have the interview with Tashima and Javon where she's talking about that. Okay, so we have Warren calls Christine, right, at 11 something. They hang up the phone. He calls the Coast Guard. She calls Tashima, Javon's mom, immediately to see if the boys have seen Nolan. So Tashima on three-way, which she very much makes sure that the public knows she did this on three-way. I don't know why that's important to her, but it's interesting to me. She says, I called Javon on three-way with Christine, and Javon said he did not know where Nolan was. So I hung up and called Jalen, my other son, who doesn't answer. And so then I called, and I also did that on three-way with Christine. And then I called LeBaron, who Jalen was with, and LeBaron answered and then gave the phone to Jalen so I could talk to him on three-way with Christine, because that's very important. The public knows that this is on three-way. So obviously, if Tashima called Javon, he already had his phone.
I know why she's saying this. Because there's no phone records. That, like, the reason she keeps on saying that she was on three-way is because there's probably no phone records with Christine making any calls. You get what I'm saying? So do you feel like it's like I'll just tell everybody that we were on three-way?
Oh, that's actually possible. So that she's like, when I talked to Javon later, he didn't know. So here's the thing with the Snapchat stuff. So Javon already picked up his phone. This is my theory. You guys can take it, you can leave it, you can whatever. Javon already picked up his phone. So he knows that Nolan's phone, because they're all in Wyatt's truck, right? All these phones are in Wyatt's truck. He knows that Nolan's phone is also in Wyatt's truck and that Nolan isn't with them. Now, why Javon is not saying this, I don't know. But he knows Nolan's phone is there. So instead of going to find Nolan on Snapchat, because I always had an issue with the Christine says, I looked at Life 360 and the data was different than what the boys saw on Snapchat. Well, I have Snapchat and Life 360. The data should not be different. And then people are like, well, it happens when you open, when you open one, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's not how that's not how it works. Like, not here. Like, the phone is still where the phone is. So what I think Javon does is he opens the Snap map and he sees that his friends are all at this specific location so that he knows where they are, which to me tells me that he did not pick up his phone from that same location. He picked it up from somewhere else. So if the boys are all at Jax's grandparents' house chilling, right, and they're watching TV and that's when they go in, then there's a group of his friends, all of his friends that he follows on Snapchat are showing up here. So he's like, hey, this is where all the people are. And they make a comment, and I'm not going to quote it correctly, but they make a comment that we could see where all the kids were, so we went there. And I don't think it had anything to do with Nolan's phone in particular. I think that he saw his group of friends who he knew had Nolan's phone.
Did Warren call Javon to ask Javon if Nolan was with him?
According to Warren, yeah, he was like, hey, we can't find Nolan. And then Javon's like, yeah, I don't know, man. And he's like, could I get Christine's number so I could find out if she's talked to him or seen him? Because, if maybe you don't remember everybody's phone numbers because it's in your cell phone. We know he doesn't have his cell phone, because when Warren is like, hey, where's Nolan? He's like, we need to call Nolan. And why it's like, you can't, it doesn't matter. You can't call Nolan. His phone's in my truck. And so Warren's like, well, shit, like, how the hell am I going to get a hold of him? And I don't know if anybody's seen him. And Warren's not friends with Katie, but we know, like, Jax's brother is. We know, we know Tristan is. So he calls Javon and he's like, hey, Javon, what's Christine's number? Because, like, if Nolan doesn't have a phone, he probably remembers his own mom's phone number at least, even if he doesn't remember everybody else's. So maybe he'd call his mom and be like, hey, just letting you know I'm good, made it back, I'm hanging out with my friends or whatever.
Or he would call his own phone.
Not if his phone's dead. Because I'm curious if his phone's dead.
Okay, I have a question then. On Snapchat, if your phone dies, where does it show on Snapchat? If I was to look at maps.
That's my question. I don't know. That's why I'm wondering if the phone is dead, and that's why he's not showing up, and they're just using it because he knows that, you know, Nolan's phone is with Wyatt. It's in Wyatt's truck, and we'll find out where Wyatt is. That's why the locations are different, because the phone dies, and Life 360 shows, you know, something different for Christine than Snapchat shows for Javon. All theory. I don't know yet. Still looking. This is what I'm kind of looking at right now.
Okay, so I have a question. Why was everybody rushing to get off the island at the same time? Is that normal that everybody is like, it just seems like everybody leaves that area. It just seemed like everybody was leaving at the same time. Is that like normal that they only go to that spot to like between like 4 and 6?
Well, I don't, it seems like everybody kind of comes and goes. Like this little, it's like basically like driving, you know, down the street to like your house, you know, or to like your friend's house. You know what I mean? Like it's about an 8 to 10 mile boat trip. And these kids love being on the boat, as you know, they've all said, like that's kind of what it is. So I don't think that I think they kind of just come and go. I mean, even like Warren's mom's like, yeah, I popped out there, you know, for a while, and we have pictures of her there at nighttime. You know, she brings Carter. I don't know. I think that, well, we have Caitlin's boat that doesn't leave until 7:30. Trayston's uncle's boat leaves pretty much after Trayston gets in a fight. And that's probably just because, like, dude, you're fucking drunk, and like, we're not going to deal with you. We're taking you home for Trayston, which makes sense because then in his interview, he says he goes home and passes out. So, I mean, like, he doesn't even go out that night. He's totally, I mean, he's done. So I think they leave at that time. You've got the Palm Beach, who supposedly was already gone, and then the Triton leaves. And I'm not sure if the Tide Line leaves with them to make sure they get home okay, or if the Tide Line sees they're in trouble and goes up and offers help. I don't know that answer. So then we have Randy Wrigley, who had 2 boats out there, he says, and that one of his boats left at 3:30, and the other one stayed out there the rest of the night. And that was because one boat had 18 and over people on it, and the other one had the adults with the little kids.
Wait, one of those boats stayed out all night?
Not all of them. So he said, so there's another photo of a black kid on the back of a boat. Like, I'm just going to put it out there. And he says this photo is Nolan on his boat. It's a different photo than the photo we've seen. So this is Randy Wrigley, who says this is from my boat on July 4th. The young man in the blue trunks is Nolan Wells, was seen by many others. He was kind of hard to miss because he was so nice and kind. He even hugged my wife and helped her get up on the boat ladder. Now, I can't get rid of this shit that's on the top of that screenshot, so it is what it is. So he says, so this is his post. He says, I had 2 boats on Horn Island on the 4th with teenagers on both. One boat with 18 plus and another with 3 adults and younger teens. Both boats anchored in the same area. There was a lot of drinking. High tide was at noon. The water flowing out of the pass between Horn and Ship could be very strong. If there's anyone who does know anything that happened to Nolan, it's the young lady he was spotted walking around with until after 6 p.m. She may have panicked and rushed back to the boat she was going back on. They were all inebriated and didn't want to get involved. A lot of young people on that boat also. One of my boats was tied up very near to that boat, but left at 3:30. More than half of those who came out on my boat stayed and went back with others. I also know all the falsely accused, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, so he says, like, one boat stayed out there like later and into the rest of the night. Like, not all night, but like for fireworks, because you could see all the fireworks and stuff. Yes, there's fireworks. Well, I don't know if the fireworks are on Horn Island, but from my understanding, they were lighting some fireworks on Horn Island, and then they also could see the fireworks really clear, obviously over the water. So anyway, so he says he has one boat that leaves at 3:30, and then the other boat stays. And so this is potentially one of the people on his other boat that sees them walking around after 6, sees Nolan walking around after 6.
Okay, so right there, the part where he says, if there is anyone who does know anything that happened to Nolan, it's the young lady he was spotted walking around with until after 6. When he's saying spotted, so this dude left, so who is he getting this information from?
Great. His other people on his other boat stayed. And then he also says that some of the people from his boat that left at 3:30 also stayed and got rides back with other people.
Okay, so how I look at this, how I look at this is, I said it before and I'll say it again. It has nothing to do with the people that were earlier. They're, you're day drinking, you're getting drunk, hey, and then you have this boat, issue. And so we're heading back in, right? And it's clear as day now. What it seems to me is people do, hey, ride back with other people, and it's not a big deal. And if people are out there, so for someone to say, like I've always said, whatever made the girl and the guy stop hanging out. So for example, these two people, Nolan and this chick, you're walking, you're hanging out. What happened that it would be like, oh hey, it's time for me to go, like my friends are saying that they're leaving or whatever, right? And then Nolan's just gonna be like, well, can you guys give me a ride back in because I don't have, like, everybody left. And this person's just gonna be like, no, we can't, there's not enough room. And like you're just looking around like, dude, like, can I at least use your phone? I have to have my boys come back out here and pick me up. Like, it'd be one thing if you're like, okay, hey, like, we are told fact, but hold on, let me get one of the phones. Let's get like somebody to come out. Like, there's all these other. I mean, is Nolan just gonna keep saying, no, it's cool, go ahead, I'll just find someone else. It just, when does it get to the point that there should be a ton of people? Like, would Nolan? It seems to me like he's outgoing, that he's gonna be like talking, to people. So, I mean, like, let's be real. Did Nolan just say, if he's doing cocaine, by the way, you're not going to sleep. I mean, so to lay like down and be like, oh my God, I need a nap for a minute and let me just lay down, let me get out of the sun. So he goes somewhere that, I'm only just trying to piece how he is there any way that he could have passed out and then just thinking that I'm just going to rest for a minute, okay? And then next thing you know, he comes to and it's like 8, 9 o'clock, 10. I mean, I'm only just throwing this out there that, and then would he ever be like, I'm going to go ahead and try to swim in, I don't have my phone? Or were there people out there? I mean, at that point, wouldn't you just be like, I'm just going to chill out on this island overnight, and then when people come in the morning, I'm just going to, flag down the people that would be out there? I mean, do we think that he potentially, like, something like that could have happened? I believe that there's some type of foul play, and it would look like more like if somebody was holding somebody underwater, and then like a panicking situation if you got into something. But if there's no signs of like someone taking a punch or whatever, you don't necessarily have to punch anybody in the water. You just gotta, but you'd have to be strong enough to hold him down, which would be he's in shape, he's strong. It's gonna have to be somebody that could overpower him in like a wrap around your legs, around his arms, and you know what I'm trying to say, like hold you underwater, and then you could make it so that there would be blunt force trauma.
Well, so there was people that camped out there, like, and they posted online that they were camping out there and they didn't see anything. So, and then we've heard that there was at least like 10 groups of people camping out there that night. Now, obviously this island is 10 to 12 miles long or whatever it is. So it's like, where were you in comparison to the, northwest side of it. I don't know. Nobody really ever clarifies that. So it seems to me that something happens between 4:30 and 7:30. Because if he is stuck out there, he can walk to people who are out there camping, even if they're not right there in that area. I mean, he can walk there. So I just don't think he's like left there and something like happens because he's left there. Something happens between 4:30 and 7:30. 7:30, the boat that was parked next to where his friends were, and basically all know everybody in this group, and were adults with their own kids, did not see him at 7:30. Now, did they see him at 6? Did they see him at 6:30? I don't know. That's a different question. And she's not responding to anybody because she posted online and everybody went ballistic on her. So I don't know.
Who's that?
That's Caitlin up here. We were parked right next to them, and he was nowhere in sight when we left at 7:30. So interesting. She does post a photo that I have. Let me find it real quick. She posts a photo where you can see that she is right next to him. So again, more screenshots of videos instead of putting out the video, but it is what it is. It's not that. Yeah. So she posts, this is her post of we were parked right next to them and he was nowhere in sight when we left at 7:30. And then she posts this picture of the boat, like from her angle. It's a screenshot. I blew it up, and obviously now it's super blurry. But this is the Triton right here. And so here's that group of kids. Look how many kids are on that boat right now, like just chilling on the boat. That's a lot of kids on that boat. That is way past capacity, by the way.
Absolutely. In fact, actually, look at this. The way this is situated, you got the black boat on the left side, the 4-person boat's in the middle. So that's how they were roped up. Do you see that?
Say that again?
How I'm looking at this, what time is this at?
It's the $1 million question on everything, Lana.
Okay. So what I have to say, though, is that all the way to the left, you can see the tip of the black boat. You see? Okay, yeah. And then in the middle is the 4-person, the Palm Beach. And then, so that's how they were set up. Do you see how now check this out. Every interview, it was, they were always at the front of the boat, meaning Katie and Nolan. They were always at the front of the boats, hanging out, swimming in that area. Probably for privacy purposes, okay? Like, let's be honest. Let's see how this is all set up. You would definitely want to be, in the front of the boat, where, not all over these people. But what this also tells me is, remember when you're talking about it, there was only 2 boats tied up at that point because the Palm Beach basically goes in early. Is that a fact? And I wonder if they ever went and got GPS on that boat to know if that's true, because then you're basically saying that the middle one took off and then the 2, Bart's boat and the other boat then had to kind of come together because the kids are all talking about that there was only 2 boats tied up and I don't know which one he was on. But looking at this, I mean, that boat looks like it's totally overfull. It's totally leaning to the right. It's you got way too many people. And so what it would seem to me is, they can say we didn't leave anybody, but depending on who needed to get back and how many people rode, it looks like there was no, who's that big dude with the belly? Who's on that boat with is that, maybe it's just the water or something? I don't know.
I don't see any bellies. So,
do you see Nolan in there?
No, I do not see Nolan in this picture.
Who's the guy right there in the middle with his hands up? Who's that?
I have no idea. It doesn't stand out to me as somebody. I believe this right here. I believe this is Eric. Eric, for whatever reason, I can kind of point out Eric in most of the grainy pictures and videos, but nobody really ever talks about him. But he's the one that's like the most easily identifiable to me.
I think 2 or 3 people know exactly what happened. That's what I think. And I think that this is getting really, really close to being turned over to a grand jury, because I do think that, I don't, this water is way too calm. And if this water's way too calm, I don't know. And I think that he would have just, you got all these boats, you're telling me everyone's leaving and Nolan just keeps on saying, I'm going to stay. Like that doesn't make any fucking sense. But I'm telling you, if you're doing cocaine, you're going to, when people are getting all like tired and stuff, you're not. And you're like, yeah, I'm ready to go. But if that shit's wearing out, I want to know if you had like a massive crash then. And I don't know. It's nuts.
Well, my thought is if he was on cocaine, like people on cocaine usually think they can swim forever. I don't know if that's the same as people who have been drinking heavily and then take cocaine, but I know people on cocaine think they can swim a really long time.
Well, I think that you by far have the best. For the record, I got to get this out on the record here. I know we've been talking a lot behind the scenes about it, Colin and stuff, but hands down, I feel like this is another, taking us back to 2021. This is fucking good work.
Dude, we've known each other for way too long. It's crazy to think how many years have passed. And just like all of the shit that we have been through, like since our very first life together.
Yeah, especially because like this stuff, like all the Facebook, when people are posting and we're trying to grab all like people's social medias, I'm over here like, man, 2021, man, bringing us back, to the fuck. It's been what? That was like 5. Well, actually, it was the beginning of. It was at the end of 2020, if you want to be technical. So it'll be 6 years then.
Look at that.
Yeah, so go, everybody in here, go like and subscribe to Criminality. She has a channel. You can just type in Criminality like this, or can you actually link it to mods? I think you guys can type that in, and then you want to make your big T. But T does really good deep dives, and we're all about timelines and people's accounts and going and scouring social media. I mean, the boats, I was watching some of that. Your boats and hoes.
I almost changed it to boats and hoes just for you. And then it's funny because somebody in chat was like, did anybody bring up boats and hoes? And I was like, they actually did. So I was just going to show you guys, because for anybody who doesn't really know, like we have the GPS for basically everything that happens with the boat and then where Nolan was found. So the boat, the Triton and the Palm Beach and the Tide Line are all parked like right here. The Triton travels on its own to this area here before it gets towed. So like the photos we see of it being tied up, that's all happening like right over here. It gets towed for 2.75 miles. Essentially, I just kind of put it towards, obviously, like towards the mainland. So until 5:25, when the water is emptied out, because remember, so in the call you hear them talking about pulling the plug, like Bart, make sure you pull the plug. So when they tow, they can pick up enough speed to push the water out the hole where the plug is. So then once the water is out, they can pick, the Triton can pick up speed and fly towards land, which is what essentially they say they do. So here is where they stop being towed, and then they go back into Jax's house. So if anybody's curious about it, because he goes back to Jax's house like multiple times. And you can kind of see, or Jax's grandparents' house. So Jax's grandparents' house is right here. The party at Ava's house is right here. This is the dock where Wyatt ends up taking his boat back to get it on a trailer. And then this is Bart's house over here. So just kind of a general idea of where everybody is at. And then the boat is actually trailered, and the Triton is trailered and docked at Wyatt's house over here. So they're only towed for part of the way. They're not towed straight from shore. So people aren't watching them necessarily. I mean, if you're standing here, you can see it, but people in the water right next to where they were parked, they're not watching them get tied up. They're getting tied up over here. And that's where they start to tow. Now, Nolan's body is found, and just for general purposes, this is obviously Google Earth. It's not 100%, accurate on the time of year when Nolan's body was found. So tides change, so on and so forth. So just to, let people know, it doesn't always look exactly like this because different times of day, it's different. Different times of year, it's different. So Nolan's body is found approximately right here. That's why they say it like washed up right next to where he was hanging out.
Okay. What do you think about that? Where his body was located? Do you think that, I mean, that's like, yeah, that's...
Well, I mean, I think he died right here in this area. And if you drown, your body sinks. So it immediately starts to sink. People aren't going to see you right away. And then as the gases are being released, your body begins to float, and then the tide would bring you in. Does that mean, what does that mean for currents here? Who knows?
We need to do a Scott Peterson, Lacey Peterson, Connor Peterson experiment. If you really wanted to like see how things could go, you could go get, you could do a experiment to see. I mean, maybe we should just hit up an oceanographer person like, hey, can you talk about some of the tides? But I think it takes like 24 to 48 hours for your body to come back up. So it would make sense that, because they, on July 5th when they're over there, they're saying that like, we were searching all over there and we didn't see anything. And I don't know, I mean, I don't know.
It does. It could take 24 to 48 hours for your body to rise if if nothing's holding you down. So like, I don't disagree. Like, there's somebody in chat who's like, there's a lot of what ifs, and there absolutely is. And that's part of the reason, like, for me personally, I can't let it go because I need answers to all those what ifs. So I keep digging every day to try to find some type of resolution because something doesn't make sense. No matter what it is, like, something doesn't make sense. So that's kind of what keeps me digging. So I know that like other people they get real tired of that and they're just like, I just want facts and I'll just wait for facts to come out. And that makes sense. I know that people are like that. My brain just works like, if I can't come up with a resolution, I'm trying to play through all these scenarios in my brain and see like which one is the most likely, which one can I prove right, which one can I prove wrong, how do I make sense of this? So like, I get it. Like, I get people are like, I don't want to speculate. I don't want to try to figure it out. I just want the facts to come out and then I'll make a decision. And that's just how some people's brains work. Yeah. It is what it is. So this is just how my brain is. Once I personally have like a resolution in my own brain about a case, unless you bring me something. So I know, so there's a lot of people in here, Lana is known for her incredible work that she's done on the Idaho4 case. So there's a lot of people in here, like I covered the Idaho4 case basically up until he pled guilty. And then I don't have all the new information that you guys have been digging through. So I'm like trying to catch up on some of it to see like, do I want to go back and cover that case? Because I know you guys all have a ton of questions, but do I have a resolution that I'm okay with for my own self? It's not really for you guys, it's for me. Like, could I put my finger on what I think happened? And then if I can't, that happened with Delphi. They arrested Richard Allen. I stopped covering the case. And then something caught my attention that I was like, that doesn't make sense. And I went back and spent a year of my life digging into everything Richard Allen and Delphi. And now I'm at a totally different spot in mentality than I was. And people are like, you got to do that with Idaho4 because you're missing all the new stuff and all this crazy shit that's happened with the blood not being in, no blood transfer between the crime scenes with there possibly being two weapons. And So I'm like, okay, like, let me see if I want to go back and try to figure this out, because at guilty plea, I had a personal resolution with that case that I did not, there wasn't a lot of what ifs left for me, and I moved on. And now, here we go. Lana's like, yep, there's so much shit, Teresa, you have no idea.
There is, Teresa. There is. No, there is. Hey, you should look at the a couple of those reports. For me, that blood, there's just no way that there's not going to be any blood mixture between the 4 victims, or at least, 2 and 1. I mean, come on. And then I would be swabbing until I found it, because I would need it for my narrative. And there's just not. And I'm like, dude, your gloves would be saturated. Your knife is saturated. You guys are saying one weapon. You guys are saying he didn't change out, no clothing. And the you would swab the clothing where the wounds were, you know what I mean? And it just, you're going to have that mixture of the people upstairs with the blood of, Xana or Ethan. And there's just not. And they didn't do anything to try to pull that, I feel like, out of the evidence. I don't know. But hey, this is unprecedented territory, though, as far as a defendant's expert going on live television with the victims' families. That's pretty unprecedented.
So I sent you the PDF. I'm sure you'd already read it, but I did send you the PDF of the book in case you wanted to share that with your people. Broken Plea. So I sent that in your messenger. It's just, I love PDFs of books. Taking us back to 2021, when for some reason I got every PDF of every Chris Watts book that there was. So I did send you the PDF of Broken Plea if you wanted to share that with your audience so that they could read it and not have to actually buy it.
Thank you, T. We'll do that. All right. Well, I'm going to call it a wrap here. I'm going to go eat some lunch. But thank you so much. Let me know if you're going to talk more about this later or tomorrow. I'll come on over. I would love to panel up. Come on over there, and I'll post it, and people can come over. I just think it's I think that somebody. I think they're going to be taking stuff to the grand jury. I mean, they already said they were, but I don't know. It'll be interesting.
So have you watched the DA's interview or the DA's statement?
The one that I saw was just 3 minutes. Is that the one?
Yeah, that's it. So she talks about how, all these how all these deaths in Mississippi, they always go to the grand jury. And I'm going to go back and listen because I want to see how she determines which cases go to the grand jury and which ones don't. Because if it is a drowning, right? It is they could say, okay, you accidentally drowned. Is it a suspicious? Does she say, I want to know her terminology, and maybe you remember it. She either says undetermined or suspicious. What type of deaths in Mississippi always go to the grand jury? Because I don't know if people paid attention or if she even said it, because that would tell you kind of what the preliminary autopsy results were for the state.
No, great question. I think she said undetermined. That's, that would make, that squares with my brain. I don't think it would be accidental, but I would think that's something that's going to be undetermined. But that would be interesting to know. Did they announce the lawyer that Brian Kohberger got, or do I need to make a call to the Ada County Public Defender's Office?
Last I saw, it was literally just on his case that he was appointed a public defender with no name yet. But I haven't looked at all since I've been on here.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, thank you so much, chat. Again, go see Teresa over there. Criminality. That's how you spell it right there with the big old T. You guys rock. This case, man. Just when you thought. Until next time, guys. Appreciate you. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you, moderators. You guys rock. Always rocking it here. Appreciate you.